What is up? What is up? What is up, guys? It is your boy, RC Apologist, and this is Ask Reformed Christian Apologist number 90. All right. Yeah. Oh, gotta make sure I had that thing on my channel thing as a mute because I don't want to get my ears being blasted into being deaf and silent. Yes. And I got some Sprite Cranberry. Sprite Zero to be precise. But before I get into all of that, let me just go ahead and get this out the way. All right, what's up? It is Ask Your Boy, Reformed Christian Apologist, here on the stream. And we are going to be doing this stream of a Q&A, where, as usual, you get to ask me questions concerning theology, concerning faith, matters, and practice, and I will answer to the best of my ability, which reminds me, get that Bible software up and loaded so we can get it ready. All right. Now, of course, before we get into the thing, let's get over the how to ask questions. Now, go to the description to get how to do that. You have, number one, submit your question in the live chat, which you can see we have test, Roger, and egg. All those three words that are in there. That is where you can go to check up and do it on the live. Submit your question in the live chat. Which, by the way, I see we have Aaron Fox in there. Hello, Aaron. How do you do? Oh, hold up. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, by the way, Aaron, which leads me to another thing. Two, if you want to come in here and get the link for that, DM me on social media for the link, and you will most certainly get the link to come into the room and come into the hangout. Woo! I will explain why I'm so pumped right now. And I tell you, it's not because of a drink. It's not because of Sprite. Number three, we have a Discord. So if you go there, we have the Discord server where you can send in your Discord questions, which we got several planned up that have been saved for this particular occasion. All right, so we have that. Hello, call me Varmint. Wait a minute. Varmint as in varmint of the Christian fur group? If so, that'll be something. Which, by the way, congratulations on the confession of faith. All right, so yeah, welcome, Varmint. All right, so yeah, we have a Discord. So if you want to hop in there, check out our Discord. There you go. I see from another server we have someone says, humble homie saying, it's because you're on fire for God. That's why you're so right. True. There's one thing there. All right. But oh yeah. So then the fourth option, if you have a Facebook, I'm gonna see if it'll actually try working because we've been getting more followers for it, so maybe something will actually happen. We'll see how that turns out. But yeah, you can go to our Ask Reformed Christian Apologist page where you can comment on there to send in a question through there. So there's your 4 ways. You can check them in the description if you need any reference to it. And that is how you ask your question. But yes, so let us begin. Again, we'll be waiting until some people come in. I've already pre-invited a few people for them to skilly-ba-boo-boo-boo in. Yeah, I'm just making words up at this point. Okay, yeah, yeah. So, anyways, as I was getting at, as I've mentioned, I've been slightly on like some bad like health problems. There was times I've had problems trying to sleep because I wasn't feeling like I was breathing properly. So I decided to make a change in terms of my life choices and my diet and my routine. Number one, I changed my sleeping schedule so that I, not necessarily the sleeping, but the waking up part, so that I had an alarm set for waking up earlier than I would take my medicine time. And it's caused me to be up and then be a lot more energetic throughout the day. So that's good. And then there's this diet well, I keep getting told by the person who inspired me to do this, it's not a diet so much as the lifestyle. And so I'm on this. And with it, for the week that I've been on it so far, and by the way, including like another thing I drank, I drank this in the morning, and I should have drank this in the. Well, then again, I was already ate, so it would have been pointless to drink it. I have some water, 8-ounce water, with some apple cider vinegar. Now, folks, I'll tell you this: it's nasty, and if you get some of it on your finger, it smells like sweaty feet. But once you just put it down your throat, it actually works. Like, it helps curb the appetite, gives me some energy to go out through the day, and has helped me get motivated to work out if I do kind of have a little cheat days where I take in some carbs. But I'm on like 0 to very small carbs. Like, I've been eating like, the grilled chicken. For breakfast I've been eating boiled eggs and bacon, and I've been eating some these Star-Kissed Creations tuna things that come in flavors like honey barbecue and buffalo. I love the buffalo. It's almost like a chicken, a shredded chicken, basically. And the honey barbecue is kind of like a barbecue pulled pork. So after being on all this, I was just like, wow. So that's why I'm in kind of an energetic mood, and probably why I'll be for the rest of the night. Because this has really changed my life into my mentality, my attitude. So who knows? It might help me lose some weight and give me more confidence about myself. So this is the thing I really needed. All right. So that being said, go ahead and send in your questions in the live chat if you're watching and wanting to do so. By the way, welcome Varmint as usual, as well as Aaron if you're still here, and Preacher Sean, and Logan Makes Videos, and whoever else is watching, because we got 7 people watching right about now. Okay, let's go in, and since we don't have any directly in the live chat yet, let's go to Discord. Discord, what's the first question? Acts chapter 17, verse 15. This is, by the way, from the White Engine. Asks, we're told that Paul leaves for Athens without Silas and Timothy. Yet in 1 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 1 through 3, Paul clearly states that Timothy was with him while in Athens. Which do you think was the case? Okay, so concerning this, let's go over the matters here. So in Acts 17, verse 15, we have the historical account here concerning Silas and Timothy. Now let's go over to, let's pull over the Bible software on this. So go Acts chapter 17, verse 15. Remember, context is key. Oh, hearing something on the roof. Probably a squirrel. And they that conducted Paul brought him unto Athens, and receiving a commandment unto Silas and Timothy, for to come to him with all speed, they departed. Okay. So we have this particular text here, whereas the, let's get the ESV. As far as Athens, after receiving a command for Silas and Timothy to come to him as soon as possible, they departed. Okay. We'll get into that then later. I'm trying to make sure I understand where this is going. Hold up. Kind of glitched out there for a second on my end. At least that's what I saw. All right. Let's see here. Where is it? Those who... Oh, come on. I just had it up there. 1 Thessalonians 3, verse 1 through 3. Okay. 1 Thessalonians 1 through 3. 1 through 3. Therefore, when we could bear it no longer, we were willing to be left behind at Athens alone, and we sent Timothy, our brother and God's co-worker in the gospel of Christ, to establish and exhort you in your faith. Let no one be moved by these afflictions, for you yourselves know that we are destined for this. Okay, so here's what I don't understand concerning this particular issue. All right, so let's go ahead and go over some of this. So I don't know why he would say that like there's some kind of contradiction here. Okay, so first of all, let's go over Acts 17:15 real quick. So it says here, but those who were conducted, Paul brought him as far as Athens. So they brought him as far as there, and after receiving a command for Silas and Timothy to come to him as soon as possible. So let's go here. He says, Paul leaves for Athens without Silas and Timothy, yet at the passage we just over in Thessalonians says Paul clearly states that Timothy was with him while in Athens. Let's go back to that then. So in First Thessalonians, it says, therefore, when we could no longer, we were willing to be left behind at Athens alone, and we sent Timothy, our brother and God's co-worker in the gospel of Christ, to establish and exhort you in faith, in a spiritual relation, having the same heavenly Father and belonging. This is, by the way, the commentary from John Gill concerning what it meant to send him, because keep in mind, and the mother of us all, of the same household and in the same relation to Christ, the firstborn among many brethren, or their brother in ministry, who was employed in the same business and did the same work they did. Or he is called on account that strict and intimate friendship which insisted between them, by virtue of which they stuck as close as brethren, or closer to one another brethren usually do. But the other way you can see it, take a look here. Now, it says that then we sent our brother. So if you want to do the issue of being sent, go to Acts chapter 17, verse 15. Now, I noticed earlier in the commentary they had, says, then the brothers immediately sent Paul off his way to the sea, but Silas and Timothy remained there. Those who conducted Paul brought him as far as Athens, and after receiving a command for Silas and Timothy to come to him as soon as possible, they departed. So meaning that Timothy, then in this case it expounds on it being that Silas is then included as well, they then are departed and are sent to Paul. Which again, because if we go to these, this isn't proof of a contradiction. This is actually proof of a reconciliation. There's no, I don't think that, this is just me being honest here, I don't think that, White Engine understood the verses, because if he's saying that there's like contradiction there, it's literally saying the same thing, especially if we include Acts chapter 14 or Acts chapter 17 verses 14 and 15 together, and not just isolate 15 out. Okay. But thank you for your question, though, regardless, my friend. Oh. All right. Hold up. All right. So let's see. We got anything on the live chat? Logan makes videos. I wonder if the White Engine is actually going to look at the answers, or is just trying for I got that stupid Christian thing. I'll see if I can invite him and ask him here, so that way you can check it out. Which, by the way, Aaron, since you're here, I might as well go ahead and lead off your question in a bit. Just let me get things settled. All right. Oh, also we see we got JMD here. JMD, welcome aboard to the show.
Okay. It won't let me unmute before. Hey.
Hey, what's up, man?
Not much. Did you see my stream?
Only a little bit, because I had to get ready for this, and plus I decided to, before streaming, I got to read The Sovereignty of God by A.W. Pink. Because that's a really good book that I've been getting into lately for my reads. Let's see here. I do want to go over, since Aaron Fox is in the room of the live chat. He has the question. If you are okay with answering this one, what has made you consider joining the furry fandom if you still are interested? And what has your past relationship with it been? I am just curious. Okay, so the reason, what has made me consider it is that I've seen a lot of negativity and a lot of craziness that has gone on into the furry fandom, and I wanted to be the be like something that could be, bringing some sort of positivity to it, based on how my sense of humor has been, how I've entertained people and behaved at conventions, and then just in general with friends. Like, I think that, as well as being something that another aspect of it being a Christian, especially a conservative, reformed Christian, in the group, but while still having the same kind of behavior mentality that I normally would have, I think that would be something that would, shine things up, brighten people's days, and possibly bring some kind of unity and peace in the furry fandom that we have today. So that would be one of the reasons why I decided to join. Now, as for my past relationship with the furry fandom, there was many people I encountered over that time period. One of them, I think the very first ones, was a guy by the name of Vincent Jones. He was a skeptic in the Great Debate community, in the earliest stages of the Great Debate community that we had on the Google Plus period, and he was a good guy. We even did a co-podcast, was called the Secular Furry, or the Christian Otaku and Secular Furry podcast. In fact, you search that on YouTube and you'll find like old episodes of that, including an episode where I was putting toxic waste candies in my mouth to try to answer questions that were being or answer trivia questions and such. So it was a fun thing that we did for a while. It was pretty good. So that was always fun to do. But yeah, then he introduced me into Circuit the Fox, who it would eventually introduce me to a lot of people because he knew some people that were there. Like, he introduced me to Kiwi Fox, a furry that was in there. He introduced me to, a couple of other guys that I managed to have an opportunity to talk to and interact with, and then it just got all over there at that point. So it was interesting, and after seeing the whole drama, that's, as I mentioned earlier, one of the reasons why I decided to bring myself into being involved with the fandom and such. So yeah. Yeah. All right, so thank you for your question there, Aaron. Now, I don't know if, because I messaged Engine the link for him to come in, but we'll see. So I guess since we got someone in here, let's go ahead and go to JMD. So JMD, welcome aboard to the show. And what is your question?
Yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on I'll basically tell you my summary argument against praise and his belief. Basically, I argued that there's two lines, Cain and Abel, but the reason why Cain isn't in Genesis 5 is because it's talking about the line leading up to the Messiah, aka Seth, all the way up to Noah, which is the purpose since Seth replaced Abel. And I also argued that Cain isn't worthy of being mentioned in this line or genealogy because of what he did. Mm-hmm. And also in Genesis 4, you also see the phrase relations with and conceived, and you see this 3 times, and all 3 times you have giving birth to or conceived. Cain with his wife. We don't necessarily know who the wife was, but he conceived Enoch and called the city Enoch, and then you see this again. Adam again had relations with his wife Eve and conceived Seth, who replaced Abel. And you see this in Genesis 4:1 too. So I also argued, if Genesis 4:1 isn't implying that Cain came from Adam and Eve, then you have to show that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you want my summaries and thoughts on it?
Sure.
Well, I mean, ultimately, I think that you got a point, and I think the main thing is that you have to consider that just the idea he presented, and you were there in the debate. And this is just what I'm saying. I'm saying that the whole idea is unbiblical, and that's why it's easy for most of our arguments and most of our cases and presentations will debunk it, because he relies on just basically grasping for straws to try to defend his position and to give it some foundation. Because originally he had believed and told that it was a vegetal sequential, in the text and showed books where it points out where it is a vacatile sequential concerning Genesis chapter 4:1. And it shows that it's right there, and there's no one that denies this. In fact, they even conducted Ben Stanhope, who pointed out that Genesis 4:1 does contain a vacatile sequential or conjunction in there. And so when now he's saying, well, I abandon those scholars and now go somewhere else where it's just simply a Hebrew flashback literary device. The issue then I again also decided to conduct this with Ben again, and he just said that no, if that were the case, then every other occurrence of this form would have to be translated as a flashback, which is absurd and still doesn't explain the function of the preceding clause information. So the issue of this text, the issue of Genesis 4:1, it debunks the doctrine, and he's desperately trying to prove elsewhere that it's not debunked in his case. When we have clear evidence from the Hebraic scriptures, from the grammatical pattern of the Hebrew, that it indeed does break and violate Hebrew grammar rules, breaks exegesis, and commits eisegesis. That is what one must do to affirm the serpent seed doctrine. And that's the problem, unfortunately, with people like Praise that want to keep defending and upholding this false doctrine. So I think your case, I'm of course going to have to look at it to get a lot more detail than what you've provided. But ultimately, I think from what you described is pretty good case.
Cool. Yeah, I'm sort of talking to him on Hangouts now, and he tried going into Greek. I told him I don't know how to do this yet. Understand Greek, so I
would suggest going to Thayer's. And do you have Matthew Vine's or William Mounce's expository dictionaries of Old and New Testament words?
I do have the New Bible Dictionary and Young's Analytical Concordance of the Bible, which gives.
But do you have a lexicon or those two sources I mentioned about?
I don't have those two sources or a lexicon yet. So.
Okay, I will send. You can easily access the lexicon, Thayer's lexicon, online for free. But another thing is that you can also. I'll send you the sources of Vine's and Mounce's dictionary, because what they do is a word dictionary that goes into the Hebrew and the Greek, give examples, and these are modern. Well, not Vine's, he's dated, but Mounce's is more up to date concerning the scholarly understanding of these passages in their context and such. So these are things I would recommend. And Keith Thompson even used these in his documentaries concerning the understanding of words. He says that these are things that seminaries have used concerning the issue of word studies. So I'll send you those concerning that.
Well, yeah, I told him, well, okay, you're defending this from the Greek. You should go to an expert who has a difference of opinion. I would probably argue most scholars have a difference of opinion, and talk with them and not someone who is a layman in this. If you want to argue from the English text, which I can easily do, and show you why your conclusions I think are false, then we can do that. But if you go into that, then you're avoiding the principle of charity, I think.
Right. Well, thank you for your question there, man.
Yep, no problem. I'm going to go because I just want to get your thoughts on that.
All right, that's understandable. Okay, wolves are cool. Hugs are handshakes, by the way. I would prefer handshakes. Just a pattern I have with my body that it just forms the handshake symbol. Okay, next, let's go ahead and go to White Engine, aka HistoryNet, that's in here. We answered one question of his about Acts 17:15 and 1 Thessalonians 3:1-3 earlier. What's up, man? How are you doing? And what is your question?
It could be better. It could be worse. What was the answer?
The answer is that there's really no contradiction, but rather that when we look at them, including adding Acts 17:14-15, they're saying the exact same thing. So which do I think is the case? It's the issue that it's saying that, Paul leaves and he didn't have Silas and Timothy with him. He left. And then 1 Thessalonians 3, verse 1-3 is describing the latter half of Acts 17:15, which is saying that they're then sent to Paul, that they're sent to him.
Okay, so originally they didn't go with him, but Timothy went to him later.
Went to him later because that's what Acts 17:15 says, is that they later went to Paul.
Acts what?
Acts 17:15. It's in the same verse where it says, though this is the ESV, those who conducted Paul brought him as far as Athens, and after receiving a command for Silas and Timothy to come to him as soon as possible, they departed.
Ah.
So they received command to go to him because, and verse 14 says, then the brothers immediately sent Paul off on his way to the sea, but Silas and Timothy remained there. Those who conducted Paul brought him as far as Athens, and after receiving a command for Silas and Timothy to come to him as soon as possible, they departed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, the other one. Paul met Jesus' brother James, and they had a falling out more than once, right? Why didn't Jesus make his message clear to his own brother? Why just Paul?
What do you mean that it wasn't clear to his own brother?
The reason they had a falling out was that James thought his message was for the Jews, while Paul was...
Where does it say that?
No, because that's what they were having a dispute over.
Where does it say that that's why they were having a dispute over that?
I mean, I don't have the exact verse on the top of my head.
Okay. Because as far as I recall, that's an idea that a lot of liberal theologians and Muslims try to put in there, because they'll point out to James saying the difference of justification. And that's why they say James was actually a Muslim, or James was more of a Jew, and Paul was the one who invented Christianity, whereas they were just Jews, not Christians, the original disciples and such. And this is where you have people that are either saying that, thinking Paul's a false prophet, or they're Muslims that are trying to make this kind of statement. So you have those theologies, but I've tried looking whenever they make this, and all they say is, well, just look at their theology. It's different, so it's obvious they had a falling out. But I don't see anywhere where it said that they had a falling out, but it did show that Peter had a falling out with Paul, because Peter was falling into the teachings of the Judaizers and ended up practicing that.
And Peter and James were partners.
Right, but that doesn't mean that he was going after James. It just says Peter in that.
Why didn't James correct it, though?
Because James wasn't probably aware of this, but Paul was. Because Peter would basically, whenever he was around Gentiles only, he would preach the message of salvation is for the Gentiles, as well as you do not have to adhere to the laws. But whenever the Judaizers were around and they were in Peter's presence, Peter would change his message. So it was depending on where Peter was around and who was nearby. And so that's the whole point.
Peter's that kind of guy who was who would like okay, not that he's like that, but basically he's kind of like that guy who would talk shit about you until you're in his presence, right?
That what?
Never mind.
No, what?
Never mind.
What? You asked something.
No, just never mind. It doesn't come out right.
Okay. So yeah, I don't see how there's no evidence that shows, as far as I'm aware, that Jesus and brother James and Paul fought. But to answer the question, why didn't he make it clear to him? He did make it clear to James. The issue is that James just wouldn't accept it.
His own brother appeared to him after death, and he's just wouldn't accept that Gentiles are worthy of salvation too.
He accepted Gentiles are worthy of salvation. What are you talking about?
You said he resisted the idea.
The idea of him being the Messiah, but the idea of salvation being to the Gentiles, that's something he did accept.
How do you know this?
Read the Epistle of James, my friend.
But do we know that was written by him?
Absolutely.
How so?
All right, just hold on for a second as I get my book.
I mean, nowhere he doesn't mention my brother, this and that.
Doesn't matter. Just hold on as I get these scholarly books that point out how we know for a certain fact that they were written by him. And in fact, since I got it too, let me first put on this coat. It's starting to get a little chilly in the house. I got an additional commentary on this. So I got, hold up. There we go. I got 3 books on the subject. I got R. Kent Hughes's commentary on James, the historical reliability of the New Testament by Craig Blomberg, and the Biblical Theological Introduction to the New Testament with general editor Michael Kruger. So these are some books we're going to go over right now to point out the case for the authorship of James. Now, we're going to save the Kent Hughes book for last. Let's go over the easiest one, if this doesn't convince you. Now, this article on the Biblical Theological Introduction to the New Testament was written by Bruce A. Lowe. And concerning authorship, let's go there. Authorship and date. The author identifies himself as James, a servant, James 1:1. But this statement alone does not tell us which James is in view. Most obvious is James, the half-brother of Jesus. It got a footnote here in which it says, referring to Galatians 1:19.
It's his half-brother.
Someone with legendary prominence in the early church, who was remembered as a Christian loyal to the Torah and a man of prayer. On account of such piety, we know him as the Just. Yet, ironically, some then use this prominence against the idea of his authorship. They propose that this letter must be a pseudonym written by a later Christian using James' name for credibility's sake. But apart from integrity issues, would not someone writing under James's name give more unmistakable clarity concerning his supposed identity in verse 1? If credibility were really the goal here, the issue of Torah is also used against James the Just on account of the real James having broader opinions. This is hardly convincing. Another argument for a pseudonym relates to whether the son of Joseph, a Palestinian tradesman, could compose a Greek text such as this one. But even as Dale Allison, who offers a detailed argument in favor of pseudonymity, does not find such a point compelling. Perhaps the most controlling complaint has been the parallels between James 2:14 through 26. Here's what I was talking about earlier. And Paul must reflect a later response, which then requires a date beyond AD 62. And yet, as Romans 3:8 makes clear, Paul's detractors were already misinterpreting him on issues like the relationship between grace and works, requiring just the kind of clarity James offers. Several considerations speak directly in favor of being James the Just. Number 1, the letter lacks any of the signs normally attributed to pseudonymity. Number 2, it contains all telltale discussions one might expect in early Christianity and few that would characterize a latter text. Number 3, James shows great evidence of the traditional sayings of Jesus, placing it alongside other early texts of Christianity. Number 4, even the way James seems to respond to Paul's teaching may indicate an earlier time. And number 5, there are a number of incidental details suggesting Palestinian provenance in terms of language. Others have pointed to overlap between the Greek of Acts 15, verses 13 through 21, a speech of James, and this letter. So this is from Bruce A. Lowe, and he points out that especially concerning James's comments in Acts chapter 15, verse 13 through 21, that's one idea that shows that the idea of, well, he's, trying to be in conflict here. Let's go to that. Let's pull up the Bible software real quickly. Go to Acts chapter 15, where's the Council of Jerusalem, where he is a bishop there. So James is speaking. After they finish speaking, James replied, "Brothers, listen to me. Simeon has related how God first visited the Gentiles to take from them a people for his name, and with this the words of the prophet agree, just as this is written. After this I will return, and I will rebuild the tent of David that is fallen. I will rebuild its ruins, and I will restore it, that the remnant of mankind may seek the Lord. And all the Gentiles who are called by my name, says the Lord, who makes these things known from old. Therefore my judgment is that we should not trouble those of the Gentiles who turn to God." Wait a minute now. we should not trouble them to turn to God. So he's saying the Gentiles turn to God, Gentiles that are going to be in the idea of receiving salvation, which was the accusation a little bit over the issue concerning the Judaizers who are in this council of which James is presiding over. So right here we have. So right here,
I don't remember that part. Where's
there you go. There it is.
It's Acts which one?
Acts chapter 15 in the Jerusalem Council, verses 13 through 19, after Paul, Barnabas, and Peter had spoke. Yeah.
How do I not remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it must have been his conflict with Peter I've been mistaken for.
Right. And even that's Peter wasn't having an issue about who was saved or not. Again, as I pointed out earlier, that was an issue of Peter being a hypocrite and Paul rebuking him for being a hypocrite.
And this happened twice, if I remember right.
No, this only happened once. Yeah.
Then they became buddies after they met again.
Well, after they reconciled the issue after the rebuke, then yeah.
Was this at Antioch that he was that they were had a falling out?
I think so. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. Okay, so we'll get to a couple of the other questions later. Let's get to some of the people, because I see we've had others that are asking questions in the live chat. Let's see here. We have, by the way, wow, 12 people watching now. We have a question from, let's go to the very first, because I want to, Logan makes videos. Egg? Boiled eggs only. Let's see here. Preaching Sean, question, why then reading Romans 8:8 to someone who does not know Greek, do you bother saying ou duname? Why when reading to someone who does not know Greek, do you bother saying ou duname? Have I said that? Because I think I usually go to Genesis 6:55 to quote the duname or the dunatai thing. Let's go to Romans 8:8. Or wait, no, duname. That's what I think it is. Oh wait, hold up. Cannot. Oh wait, let me get the King James, because my software is just, I don't know why it does that sometimes. Concerning that. Ooh. I see. Oh, okay. I think I know what you're talking about, though, concerning that text. That duname. I mean, the issue is that if we know someone that does not know Greek, we can at least explain it and even tell them what the whole thing is, so they can check it out themselves. I mean, you don't have to necessarily do it. You can just focus on just the word cannot and understand the English understanding of that. So, yeah. So, but I don't think I've ever used duname of Romans 8:8. I've done udais dunatai of John 6:65 and 6:44. All right, so Varmint in the chat, aka Davidson 1873, asks, I know churches are divided on baptism, immersion, or sprinkling, or whether confession is enough. What are your thoughts on baptism? Okay, I come from a Southern Baptist background, so I'm obviously for immersion and believers' baptism. But I think the issue is that I don't think it's too much of a big deal as long as you aren't teaching baptismal regeneration. The idea that when you're baptized, that has some sort of salvific property, or that you need to be baptized in order to be considered part of the church, or to be considered Christian, or to be considered saved and such. I don't put that on the whole thing compared to the Roman Catholic Church and the Eastern Orthodox Church and such, that will say it doesn't matter if you say you have faith, you say all this stuff. If you're not baptized, we mean there's problems there. You aren't a Christian, or you ain't saved. And this is, in fact, not only in the Catechism of the Church and their teachings for Eastern Orthodox. This is even as Reverend Thomas Fitzgerald points in the teachings of the Orthodox Church, says the same thing concerning the issue of their church after reading their documentations and such. In fact, I even saw elsewhere, by typing in "how is one saved" or "what is the gospel," that's what they would kind of come off as. That says you need to believe, be a member of the Orthodox Church, and then get baptized, and then start practicing the sacraments. So there's the thing there. So ultimately, I think it's, as long as you're following it, that's not that, and you're having at least some biblical basis, then that's fine. That's why I don't really care too much on the mode that is done by the Wesleyans or the Presbyterians that will decide to do that for their particular denomination. Because I even talked to a Presbyterian once, and they were some cool people and all that, and were biblically sound and would make some points. So I see we got Humble Homie on the live chat. Humble Homie, I see you're on Discord. If you want to come in here, feel free to direct message me, and you'll gladly get the link to do so. Okay. Oh yeah, I almost forgot I had to get a fanboy. Though it says he's offline, I don't understand that. Oh well, we'll just go ahead and send it to him anyways. Okay. I'm asking because my grandma and my grandpa, they have given their lives to Christ decades ago. My grandma was on the choir of Billy Graham. Grandma was immersed. She can't be immersed and sprinkled at the same. Well, I guess you can, depending on if you switch the whole thing. But either way, it doesn't matter. As long as you've got baptized, that's fine. And such. So, yeah. All right. Let's see here. What else? Do you know about Hellenization? I kind of know a little bit about it. Not really too much my thing. Logan makes videos. If God... All right, this will be the last one from the live chat before we go back to History Net in here. Let's see. Oh, come on. I just had it. If God is real, why do bad things happen? Okay, so... Well, because the issue is that when God being real and bad things occurring, God is in control and is able to be in charge of things. So the issue is that when people say, why do bad things happen? That doesn't necessarily would prove or disprove God. Is the issue of whether bad things happen or not, because then the problem would be, why is something considered bad or not? If it's an atheistic worldview or a naturalistic worldview, or even a worldview where, it's some sort of creator, but it doesn't set standards and such, how do you know that this thing is wrong? How do you know that this thing is bad? But we're being made in the image of God. We know that this thing is bad, that these are bad things that sometimes occur and such. But the reason why bad things happen is that God has a purpose and such, that he does this. Now, there are ways that we can get to, like hurricanes, for example. So let's go to Isaiah chapter 45. I'm going to show a verse here. Now, Isaiah chapter 45, verse 7 says, this is the words of the Lord, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. Now, a lot of people see this word evil here, which in the Hebrew word of it is ra, and think, oh, that means like some kind of evil, and it's like in general. But the issue is that in the lexicon support, this is referring to a natural kind of evil. And that's why if you go to translations like the ESV or the Holman Christian Standard Bible, it says, I form light and create darkness. I make success and create disaster. I, Yahweh, do all these things. So the issue of the text here says that it's creating a disaster, and this would be equivalent to him saying that I create things like, hurricanes and earthquakes and all these kinds of things that we would call natural disasters. Those are things that it's referring to. And so all these things that happen, there's a purpose that happens to it, and we don't know all the time what the purpose or what his intentions are for it. We just know that it indeed happens. So there's times where we can, depending on who you are, you'll be able to know and such. Oh, well, why didn't you say that earlier or sooner? Because now Logan makes videos of saying that was a joke question, but still, that's a question some people might ask. So hopefully that would help. That'll help some people out. Oh yeah, and Vermont said grandpa immersed and grandma sprinkled. Okay, either way, both of them were baptized rightly and are, I would say that they are saved. Okay, so I'll send you the link, Snow Princess. But until then, let's get to uh, White Engine, who's in here. And you go away and ask your question as I try to send the link to the princess that is of snow.
Okay. Let's see. Why weren't Jesus' siblings at his crucifixion?
Why weren't Jesus' siblings at his crucifixion?
Yeah, his mother was. Why weren't his brothers and sisters?
Who knows? The Bible doesn't tell us why they weren't there. They just
Do what?
weren't. Well, the Bible doesn't tell us why they weren't there. They just weren't. It doesn't really give us a reason.
Even if you thought your brother was crazy, you still wouldn't attend his execution and funeral.
They just didn't. I mean, there's plenty of reasons we could come and speculate about it. The Bible doesn't give us one. So to try to indicate and try to think of one and implement it would be to basically, argue something that's not in the text.
Oh, okay, I got a better one. How did God predetermine Judas' betrayal of Jesus if it was said that Satan compelled him to do so?
Because the issue is that God also predetermined Satan compelling him.
But Satan acts on its own.
How do you know that? How do you know? How do you know that?
Because its objective is to disrupt God's plans.
Okay, so if it's to interrupt and object to God's plans,
Wasn't it God's plan for Judas to betray Jesus on the cross?
Mm-hmm, and he used Satan to do that.
How did he use Satan?
By using him to compel him.
But Satan is the fly in God's soup, so to say.
According to what book concerning that? Because you're saying the fly to God's soup. Where's that targum or where's that idea?
It's an idiom.
In the Bible?
Means that Satan acts opposition to God's plan. So why would Satan go along? Why would Satan go along with God's plan?
Then what about Job chapter 1 where it talks about the Has-Satan?
It's not that Satan. That
doesn't matter. The issue, as Heiser even says, that the role of the Has-Satan here is to be in opposition to God. That's what his name means, the accuser. He's accusing and being in opposition against that of which God makes and has decreed.
Oh no, the Satan of the New Testament is the divine rebel.
Right, and I'm talking about the Old Testament one, which you say is different than the New Testament one, and they operate the same way. The one in the Old Testament, listen. The one in the Old Testament, it is a member of the divine council that its goal is to be in opposition and to basically accuse and try to thwart God's plan. It's the same operation.
No, he was doing God's plan to test Job.
Right, but the point is that Heiser says that thing, that Hasatan, its goal is to be against the God, against Yahweh, in opposition. That was its point. That even being a divine council member.
Yes, but the Satan of the New Testament is the divine rebel, Lucifer.
Right, the divine rebel, and even then, the Bible says that it can't do anything unless God wills it. Nothing can do anything unless God wills it and such.
So God wills his own enemy.
Yes, and that shows how much more powerful God is.
Okay, God controls its own enemy.
God controls everything according to the
Bible. That disrupts his own plans.
It doesn't disrupt his own plans. That's the thing. Satan thinks it disrupts his own plans.
So God controls Satan to give him the illusion of freedom of choice.
Not necessarily controls him, but simply says that Satan can't do anything unless God wills that be done concerning the action. Just like we can't pick up objects unless God wills that to be the case.
All right.
Mm-hmm. All right. I'm going to go take my medicine real quick. If you want, you can think of another question, and then we'll get to some of the people. I got to take my medicine real quick, though. I'm back. All right. You got any other questions, by the way?
No, that was it.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Concerning this, have you ever read a book called The Sovereignty of God?
Nope.
Okay. Have you thought about ordering that? Because there's a way to order it for free.
I don't plan on ordering it. I might get it from a library.
Well, that's the thing. I'm saying for free. And it is from a library called Chapel Library.
Okay.
And so they can send it to you for literally just for free. And it's a really good book that I would recommend concerning the issue of God and his sovereignty in relation to all kinds of topics. Like chapter I'm on discusses the will of human beings. And I just got to the section that's about to discuss the bondage of the human will, the limitations of the human will. And it goes all the way back to the Bible and such. So I'd recommend taking a look at that. All right.
So basically, according to your theology, we're on a video game that God designed.
No.
And everything's going accordingly.
No, I wouldn't say that. I'd say that we are on planet Earth and that we're in a world that God has predestined and predetermined of the events that are to occur and such.
Yeah, like how the game developer predetermines the events that go on in the game world.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing. You want to view it like that, but the only analogy that in which that would apply is to some sort of strict fatalism kind of concept, whereas the issue of this is that God's personally interacting with us. He's not just simply controlling us like puppet masters on a string and such. He's actually personally interacting with us in this. So what your analogy has done is committed a category error compared to what our theology teaches, especially the biblical theology of what the Bible says on the matter.
Now, with your interpretation of biblical theology.
Well, then show me a biblical verse that disagrees with my theology.
There was a verse in James, but I forgot which one.
Okay. Do you know along the lines of how it goes?
I forgot how it went, like I said.
Well, I thought that was just the meaning of the verse, but I'm talking about like just in general, like what it's supposed to do, because there's a lot in Calvinism concerning the issue of what the tulip is, the issue of determinism and predestination. What point in James is it referring to?
I don't remember.
Okay, so then how do you know that it's in James that it's debunking it?
Because I remember something like it.
But you don't remember what that like it is.
No, like I don't have it with me right now.
Okay. All right. I'm just saying that just points out my point.
Oh yeah. There's I think it's in the first chapter.
Okay.
It says when tempted, no one should say, God is tempting me, for God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. But each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed.
Okay. How does that prove or debunk Calvinism?
Let no one say God is tempting me.
We never said that.
In your worldview, God is tempting everybody.
Wrong.
Why? We have no free will.
Right, but no, we're not saying God is tempting us. In fact, a Calvinist, John Gill, says concerning the issue of this passage with this part. By the way, I'm getting an echo from you on your phone. So concerning it, it says, "For God is holy and without iniquity." I'm still getting that echo. Okay. So, for God is holy and without iniquity, nor does he delight in sin, but hates and abhors it, nor can he commit it being arbitrary to his nature and the perfections of it. Whereas no one can tempt another to sin unless he is sinful himself, and delights in sin and in those that commit it, nor without committing it himself. And yet sinful men are apt to charge God with their sins and temptations to them in limitation of their first parent, Adam, when fallen, Genesis 3:12. who to excuse himself and lays the blame upon the woman and ultimately upon God who gave her to him, and suggests that if it had not been for the woman, he should not have ate of the forbidden fruit, nor should he have had any temptation to it, had not God given him the woman to be with him, and therefore it was his fault, and in this sad manner to do his sons and daughters reason, who went through affliction. They murmur against God, distrust his providence, or forsake his ways. Say, if he had not laid his hand upon them, or suffered such afflictions to befall them, they had not been guilty of such sin. He himself is the occasion of them. But let no man talk at this wicked rate. So he's saying that it's not talking about the issue of the Calvinistic thing, and doesn't even show that this is something where people would normally go to as an objection of it, is that this is something that even Calvinists affirm, that the verse is true. Then it's referring to when people try to blame God for their problems or for their sins and such. And it's saying that it's man who is responsible and such. God did not try to tease or tempt you with this stuff. It is the world that does that.
But God predetermined it, so
Doesn't matter if he predetermined it or not. God predetermined the crucifixion of Christ, and that is one of the greatest sins on the planet concerning the issue that they crucified an innocent man. Well, of course, not being as great as the blasphemy against the Holy Spirit according to Jesus, but this was a sin where it was truly killing an actual innocent person in the eyes of God, and killing and murdering him. And yet that was predetermined for the sake of salvation.
So that doesn't really make sense. If God doesn't tempt you to do evil, yet people did evil under God's authority. But God hates evil.
Say that again?
I really don't want to.
Why not? You literally just said it.
Oh, I hate repeating myself. God,
well, why?
Desired for this particular evil to happen, even though it abhors evil.
He predetermined it because it would bring about salvation and such. We read Isaiah 45, verse 7, which says that he even creates natural disaster evil, Ra.
Yeah. Which makes the fall of man sort of null and void.
No, it does not.
Why not?
I mean, define what you mean by null and void concerning that.
Fallen world, fallen ecosystem.
Huh?
Fallen ecosystems and the depraved nature is a result of the fall of man. But you're saying that God created all this, created evil and as well as good.
Well, it's not me saying that. It's the Bible saying that. It's what God himself in Isaiah 45, verse 7 says.
Yeah, so it doesn't really make sense.
So why doesn't it make sense?
Because evil was already here before the fall of man.
Says who?
Says the verse you pointed out. I create good and I create evil.
Right, he's pointing that after, though. When was Isaiah written?
So God did that during the time it was written and not before then.
No, he's not saying they did that before or at the time that it was written. They say those words, though. And he's right, and these are words that are revealed during the time of Isaiah, and is referring to it in the context that we've read the whole Bible and show when the issues of the effects of sin fall into place. That's the context in which it refers to, is that post fallen state. So it's clear when we read the entire Bible that that's what Isaiah 45, verse 7 is talking about.
All right, so fallen ecosystem's not a result of the fall of man then.
Fallen ecosystem being the result of the fall of man, I believe that would be the case, that the fallen ecosystem would be a result of the fall of man.
Okay, never mind.
What do you mean, never mind? You asked a question, and I gave an answer.
All right.
So do you disagree with it?
No, I'll think about it.
Okay. So, I mean, what's your main objection here? Because it seems like you have a lot of like uh, problems with what I'm talking about, even though what am saying comes from the Bible. Like it's been quoting verses like Isaiah 45:7 and such. So, I mean, do you have problems with the Bible?
Well, doesn't everybody?
Well, for me, no. And I don't think for many Christians it would be problematic because we affirm the Bible to be the Word of God.
Like, you don't see a problem that there's contradictions everywhere, distortions?
There is no significant contradictions. There's contradictions in terms of things that are eyewitness contradictions that can be easily solved in the same way that crime scene eyewitness contradictions can be resolved, as J. Warner Wallace notes. But no, there's no significant contradictions as some of the skeptics try to point out.
No, like even Bible scholars like Lacona point out that even has a book titled "Why Are There Contradictions in the Gospels?"
Right, and you should very well know what type of book that is referring to concerning that, because I've seen Mike Lacona and know what he's in reference to concerning uh, to about that. So, and he's also an apologist who defends these kinds of claims.
Yeah, I'm just telling you that there are contradictions, not that they can't be addressed.
Okay. So, what contradiction does Lacona mention?
No, he mentions the census and how the Jesus' last words on the cross
Right.
and the chronological order of events.
Right. Again, these are not significant contradictions, but people that even Craig Blomberg and the others would say are contradictions, but they're not significant. These are contradictions that we can say happen if you were to ask multiple eyewitnesses at a crime scene, um, what happens here. You'll get contradictions, and that's why they desire to have those contradictions to
Like when you
figure out
have
the story.
when you have Jesus on the cross in Mark and Matthew, and then when you compare it to Luke, and then in John, he says totally different things.
Well, he says two different things, but he says both of them. It's just that one decides to record one thing versus the other deciding to record another.
Yeah, so why not record bits and pieces?
Well, that's the thing. They are recording bits and pieces. Matthew
Like
and
like like in Mark, Jesus is just in shock the whole time and doesn't say anything, and then at the very end says what Psalms recites the psalm. Oh my God, why have you forsaken me? And then gives up the
hmm
ghost.
hmm
Then in Matthew he says a little more, and then in
yeah.
Luke he's having conversations with the two thieves he's crucified with.
hmm Again, these are issues that all this stuff happened. It's not saying that, well, in my gospel, this all happened and nothing else. That's not what he's saying at all. He's only writing and recording what he wants to include and make significant because they usually are bringing in a point. That's why, for example, Mark's gospel doesn't mention the issue or show what happens where Jesus, the resurrected Jesus, then meets the disciples and such, or the apostles after, having been resurrected and been discovered to the tomb to be empty. And the reason why, as Daniel B. Wallace notes, is that Mark is trying to do like this short thing where you don't get too much detail into what's going on. You're just simply seeing certain things as if you're a fly on the wall, briefly, and then you're time traveling to different aspects in the life of Jesus and their travels. And the question that's being proposed then is, you've seen all this. You, as someone, if you were in their shoes, what would you make of what you have just seen? That's why he ends it abruptly with just the women fleeing. Is that what would you do? And so there you have it. And so that's why when it says to go tell, it didn't.
Okay, you faded out there.
Huh?
I didn't hear that last bit.
What bit?
No, the last 15 seconds.
Okay, there was a lot I said within that last 15 seconds. I'm trying to figure out where exactly you couldn't hear.
You left off at Princess. Where did you leave off? Like 25 seconds ago.
She says she's away from keyboard trying to fix the horde connection.
Uh,
Oh, no, she's there.
I couldn't hear you guys because we were talking over each other.
Talking over each other. You sure? Okay.
My connection's really bad.
Okay. Well, don't worry. Don't, if you feel like you need to take care of it or anything like that, feel free to do so.
you left off at what would you say in their shoes?
Right. That's what the purpose of Mark's gospel is, that he's saying, if you were in their shoes, what would you do? If you saw all this happen before you, what would you do? That's the purpose of Mark's gospel and why he's vague in some of this stuff.
You know what? That's something else that's weird. Like
What?
Peter wasn't. Mark's gospel is actually supposed to be Peter's gospel, right?
Well,
So,
Mark's gospel is actually Mark's, but he's getting his information from Peter.
Right. So how would Peter know what he said on the cross, since he wasn't there?
How would Peter know?
Yeah, he wasn't there. He fled.
Yeah, and he could have gotten the information as well from the other disciples and such.
So the other disciples just no. John was the only gospel. I mean, the only apostle at the crucifixion, and he said something else in it that Jesus didn't say in Mark.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't really make sense.
Well, that's the thing. John doesn't try to include every single individual thing that happens there. That's what I'm telling you, and that's what I've been trying to tell you.
But the only apostle at the crucifixion was John.
Yeah.
Yet he told Peter a different, supposedly told Peter what was written in Mark, but didn't bother to mention it in his own gospel.
Wait, so Peter or James or John told Peter what was written in Mark?
Going by that, you're saying that he got it from the witness at the crucifixion, and John was the only apostle at the crucifixion.
Okay. Just making sure I understand you. Yeah, Peter getting his information from John then.
Yeah. So why didn't John add the words that Jesus' last words in Mark into his own gospel?
I'm sorry, say again?
Oh my God. Why didn't John mention Jesus' last words that were recorded in Mark and not his own gospel?
He is mentioning things that John mentions, just John writes of different events and for different purposes. Each gospel represents a different purpose and a different intention, and sometimes will leave information out or don't include all of the things.
It was just a few words reciting that one psalm in Mark.
Does not matter. The issue is that there's difference. I don't see where the problem is.
So you really don't see a problem here?
Not at all. In fact, if we're going to say this is a problem, then we got to say you homicide detectives, you are stupid idiots who are doing it wrong, and you have a problem with your own investigative method of looking for contradictions in
Mark wrote what Peter told him.
Yep.
Peter got what Jesus said on the cross from John.
Or Mary, because Mary was also present.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That would explain it.
Mm-hmm. So where's the problem?
I mean, that was... Never mind.
Okay. All right. So let's get to some of y'all in the live chat, and then we'll go back to in here. Let's see. Wow, there's a lot of people that were starting asking questions. Let's see here. Yeah, I would agree with Snow Princess that the White Engine's not a troll or a tool. I don't know where that comes from.
Tool.
Yeah, a guy named Andrew Land said this guy's a troll/tool. Okay, so let's see here. Where did we go? Okay, Davidson, 1873. It sounds like God used the evil of the devil and man against itself, kind of like reverse psychology. The evil done Jesus was used by, gotta say, man. Do you see me? Oh yeah. So okay. So it seems the only question we got then is preaching Sean's question. Which, by the way, if y'all are in here, feel free to ask a question and type in questions. Get that across. So there we go. Question: is the denial of original sin a damnable heresy that puts one outside the Christian faith? I would say so, because the Bible itself describes and teaches original sin, and not only that, that this was a big issue concerning what the council, the early church fathers had discussed over the issue, because there was a Pelagianism, and Pelagius denied original sin, and the issue was settled over Scripture because Scripture teaches it, and this has been not just the early church tradition of teaching original sin, but this has been the earliest tradition, that is being the biblical tradition of the Bible, which teaches original sin in the Old and the New Testament. There are several verses that point out to this, and that's why if one is to deny original sin, then that is to affirm, a different message of the gospel, because the gospel is that mankind is sinful in its nature, sinful in its state. Denying original sin says mankind is not sinful in nature, and it is not fallen. And it is instead in a perfect nature, and that's why we have the ability to be perfect. That's why most people that deny original sin are legalists or sinless perfectionists that think that you can be in a state of not sinning whatsoever, just like Jesse Morrell and various others that teach the Pelagian doctrines and sinless perfectionism. So this is the whole thing. So
all right,
yeah,
I got to go on another live stream.
Okay, see you later, man.
Yep.
All right, Logan makes videos. How do you usually try to prove God to atheists? I just tell them they know God exists. That's what I usually said. So, yeah. Also, to try to see if Snow Prince is coming along fine on the connection. Is your connection working a bit better now?
A little bit. I turned off everything non-essential.
Ah, all right.
It's just really slow out here.
Yeah. Are you usually like at your same house, or are you somewhere else?
I moved into my grandfather's house. Yay.
Ah. Yay!
So I'm way out. About a 35-minute drive from where you are.
Nice.
Into the country. Yay, sticks. Other outdoorsy things.
Yeah. All right. So let's see.
Have you started decorating for Christmas?
I will be my where I live. I don't have anyone or any company, so there is no point of me decorating at my house. I still, in fact, the only decoration that's there is a little metal thing that sticks to my fridge that is a Santa boot. Like that stays up all the days of the year. So I guess that's a decoration. So yeah, it's just there's not a lot of people that come over, so I don't think it'll be useful for me at that point. But yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So what was I saying? Oh yeah. Okay.
Ava!
Wait, what? He's here? Where?
Of course.
Where? There you is. Boy, I'm gonna try to. Where didn't I give you the? Yeah, I told you I added you directly already. I'm surprised you ain't coming out here yet. You candy corn dog. All right, now I got to take off this robe because it is burning up. I was freezing earlier, and now I'm burning up. I don't know what's wrong with me. Anyways, Snow Princess, would you like to ask a question since I already have you on the spot?
What do you think about potato chip cookies?
Huh?
I know, right? I found it in my grandmother's recipes. Potato chip cookies.
This has got to be control. Potato chip cookies, they're literally a thing.
I'm not trolling.
I know. I'm looking at it, and I can't tell to think if it's genius or if it's disgusting. Because I understand salty and sweet, that's a good combination. But at the same time, that person's going to get the real couch potato treatment just for eating that. But it's going to double down with cookies. Yeah, boy. All right. Well, I thoughts on that. I would be willing to try it one day. So there you go. What the? Logan makes videos, asks, should it be legal to hunt furries? As a person who is a furry himself, I should be in the camp to say, absolutely not, because I'm a furry. So therefore, you'd be then under the legal obligation to hunt me down, at which I would have absolutely very much an objection to your statement. So, yes, it should not be allowed. Get that legislation of hunting furries out of Congress. All right. I'm calm. I'm done now. All right. Wait a minute. I thought I saw. Let me go back up because I saw Humble Homie said. Did he say something earlier? I don't know. But if Humble Homie wants the link to come in, feel free to message me, and I'll get you the link. Right. Oh, I see we have Invoking Theism. Matter of fact, let me see here. Let me go to Facebook because I have you on there, and let me add you on here. That way I can get you in. Also, I see we have Religious Fanboys just joined us. Hello, fanboy.
Hi, how are you guys?
Doing pretty good, man. So, what's your question?
Just curious, did you get to the one I asked you on the Discord? Or
Not yet. Not yet. I was about to.
Okay. Like that was mainly just like if there were places that you knew about to like find like outlines for people or like sources on like how to make your own like tracks.
Well, there are places that like show you. By the way, remember to mute when I'm speaking because I do get a big echo from you. Okay, so you can just type it on YouTube. How to make your own gospel tracks. Like you can do that. It's like because you got to be basic and such, and there'll be plenty of people. And in fact, there's a guy. So there's Brian Harlow, who's one that shows how to make a simple one. Then there's he's in the live chat as we speak. Preaching Sean has a video from a while back called "How to Make Your Own Gospel Tracks," in which he shows how to do it. And even using though his is definitely a complicated style, which you have to definitely make sure you have like a copy printer. Then there's Combating Belief, who shows how to make gospel tracks. That I would recommend checking his out because it definitely has an easy way of doing it. But the way that I would do it, and this is just a basic one, just making pages and then using a stapler to staple them and do it in like a book fold kind of thing, not like in how most of them usually are done today. In fact, let me show you the process of how I would go about doing this. So what I would do is, okay, let me put this up here. Okay, so let me just present to everyone. So I would get on my Paint software, for example, and I would, depending on if I want to make a color to it, I would recommend mostly using black and white, because if you're going to go elsewhere, it also helps save money, and it also saves money on your ink too. So either it being black, gray, or if it just being white. Then using however you want the text or the format, especially including the how you want the thing to turn out. So, first of all, the main key to doing this right is setting the right format. So I would recommend, making whatever you think the square is going to be. And then, hold up. So then you type in your message. Okay, let's type in something here for a short bit. Oh, wait, I forgot we got to also put in the font color. So step number 1 is this. Okay, so let's say we do that. All right, that's in there. So once that's the case, you then want to press the save and then put it as like, part of a different document. And I see we got Invoking Theism. We'll get to him in a bit. Welcome to the show. So after that's done, then make sure you just stay with the size that you decided to get for it. Press the undo button. It's already saved, so therefore you're just working on something. Then you want to continue. Try to make sure that it's in parallel and says in the same kind of format or somewhere that isn't inconsistent. So you go here. Let's move this a bit. All right. So then you got that. Save again. Keep it rinsing and repeating, and then by the time you're done, you're going to want to then make your outline. So make something that stretches out, and then copy and paste your documents onto the thing in an even line so that when you print it, then you can cut it with scissors and then staple them together. That's how I would used to do it back then when I used to make my own tracks. And that's how I would do it. And I would even leave things like go to this website. I used to leave links to my website for people to go and check out. And I would leave links to other resources for them to check out as well. So that would be sort of a advice that I would have for anyone that would make tracks. But there's also the other sources I mentioned earlier, and I'll send those to you after the show if you want.
Thank you. I'd appreciate that quite a bit.
No problem, man. Thank you. All right. Now on to the big guy that's here. We have someone that's on YouTube. He's well known a bit within the apologetic community. We have him coming in at 140 subscribers, but he's known by people like Inspiring Philosophy, JMD Apologetics, and others. This is the guy who is known as Invoking Theism. Invoking Theism, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up? How's it going?
Going pretty good. Going pretty good. Here's the real question. What is your question?
My question?
See?
For what? For like you?
Yes, this is Ask Reformed Christian Apologist, and this is...
oh, man, I didn't come prepared. Let's see. Yeah, I know. I was tuning in. I heard a little bit of Calvinism in here. I heard some eyewitness contradiction questions, so I can't use those. Let me see. You say that things need causes, but you think that God doesn't need a cause. So how does that work?
Well, I think God doesn't need a cause because the issue of God is that he's infinite and that he is not under some of the bounds of matter and such that we have in our society. So the issue for us being caused is that there was a prime mover and such. So in order for God to have one, there has to be one for that. And of course, the issue then boils down to if something is eternal, which the Bible describes that for God. So if God's eternal, then that proves he doesn't need a cause. So that would be the same thing for anything in terms of whether it be immaterial or material, that if it's eternal, it doesn't have a cause to it. But God is the one who creates and causes things. So that's, and even the point of the cosmological argument that, is referring to things that begin to exist, but God does not have a beginning. He has always eternally existed. And this is just clearly laid out in what the Bible says.
Yeah, spot on, man. Yeah, there's got to be an unmoved mover,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard you discuss anything on topics of like it's mainly been theology and some. Are you mainly, because I haven't talked to you much at all?
Maybe you should make it a habit, my friend. You'll probably find some interesting stuff and probably some slight humor from me.
Okay. Well, for so far, I've seen you tend to focus on theological things. What about scientific things like what's your stance on I guess the scientific conclusions of the Bible, such as are you theistic evolutionists, old Earth creationists, or young Earth creationists?
I would say I'm a theistic evolutionist and such, but I also believe that the Bible's not relaying us scientific truths and such. I would say that go with the view of what Heiser, John Walton, Tremper Longman III, and various others have pointed out, and that is that when we look at the Bible, it's written in an ancient Near Eastern context, and in that regard, they followed the same ideas of cosmology that they did. So the idea of a flat Earth cosmology is pretty much shown in the Bible. The idea of them believing in a three-tiered layered universe is pretty much there within the biblical text. There's pretty much all kinds of pre-scientific ideas that they have, even that carries on in the New Testament, like in 1 Corinthians, where it talks about the hair and the head coverings. It pretty much is talking about, in the Greek, in its context of that time, it basically is saying that a woman's head and their hair is basically like a testicle. And that's based on the idea that back then they thought that the length of hair played a role in fertility and in absorbing semen and such. And so that's where you get some of the language that's mentioned in, I believe it's 1 Corinthians 11. I'm not too sure, but Heiser does a podcast that points out all the things historically and biblically about this particular case.
I thought the nature of head coverings was to magnify the role of the woman towards her husband.
Right, that's the theological purpose of it. But at the same time, in the way that they would have understood it as well, is that it also plays a role in how they viewed the women's hair and how they viewed it being playing a role in fertility.
That was a part of it. Wow, okay, that's really interesting.
Like I said, you might want to hang out with me a bit more. You might learn some very interesting ideas.
Well, so far the interesting things I've heard is like it seems like everybody, like, no offense, like it seems like everybody hates you.
Well, it happens. Like I get hate for all kinds of things, regardless of what side. I've been even told like I'm not a true Calvinist, for example, by some people. So it's the saying, haters gonna hate, and I'm only out there for truth. And when I'm just going with what the Bible says and trying to search out for truth, I've had people saying, oh, you don't consider Roman Catholicism or Eastern Orthodoxy Christianity, oh, you bigot, or the issue with, oh, you think that a person goes to hell if they don't believe in Jesus Christ, you bigot. Oh, you're a furry, you're a freak. Or you like anime, you're a freak.
Right.
The issue is, don't judge me by what other people say, because that's what usually a lot of people are doing sometimes these days. But rather it's get to know me as the person, and if you disagree with me on certain things, let's hash that out, because there's people in here that would probably disagree with me on some stuff.
Well, yeah, no, I wouldn't probably disagree. I probably wouldn't agree with you on anything either. None of us do, but so far from what I've seen, like when I partially helped moderate that debate yesterday before I fell asleep, like I was just looking at the comment section and I was like, man, this is a really rough crowd for you. Like I was asking people, I'm like, okay, what's gone down in the past? Educate me a little bit.
Yeah. Well, like some of them, I noticed that one person was what's his name?
What, Brass?
Yeah, Brass. He blocked me on Twitter and tried to report my Twitter because he claimed I was harassing him, which is not true at all. I never harassed him. How could I harass a guy that has blocked me? And such. And so he just doesn't like the fact that, for one, I responded to a video of his in which he makes criticisms against the Bible and David Wood's testimony and such. And that's a fun thing. That's kind of why I'm shocked that me and him are going to be debating on the 14th, me and Brass.
Just you guys together?
Yeah, because he says that he doesn't want anything to do with me. He says that, people like me are like dead to him, that if I were to die in a car crash, he wouldn't care at all.
Well, I think that's why he needs some Jesus to save him,
Exactly, because he's a deist, and so that's why I believe he needs the love of Christ in him.
Well, I've talked to him a few times. I don't know if he's watching the stream or not, and I don't have any personally bad things to say about him. As far as deism goes, I don't really understand the point of really being a deist. As far as like, okay, are you just acknowledging the fact that I don't understand being a deist and then being involved in the Christian apologetic community? Like that, to me, that seems really weird because, like, at least as Christian apologists, our motivation is that we believe that through intellectual means and defending Christianity, we can help bring people to salvation. But is his? I don't really know what his motive is. Is his just like a little intellectual game? Does he want to see what people think? Is he just super fascinated by religious beliefs that he's just come to the point where he believes in that a God exists of some form or type? I don't know. It just really doesn't make any sense.
Well, he's part of the Red Pill religion, or he's associated with it. He's not a member. He's tried making that clear, but he is associated with it. The Red Pill religion group, which that's what they teach, is the idea is like, it doesn't matter what religion you are, as long as you're not an atheist, that's fine.
Right.
And so, like, that's the thing, is like, he's just a religious advocate. Like, he disagrees with it, but he says that, regardless of whether you disagree with it or not, religion still is beneficial to society. So it doesn't matter if I disagree with it and will criticize it. I would still rather someone be a Hindu or a Buddhist or a some form of religious believer compared to an atheist, and so they would have their criticisms there. So that's all he's really doing, is being a general religious advocate and such. So like, he's even tried to, and like most of the guys in the group, they'll role play and try to pretend to be different positions, and they think this is a genuine beneficial thing when trying to convince people of their positions. So it confuses me, but that's the whole thing, because I did make a mistake when I interacted with these guys in the first place, and then now it's gotten to the point where they just want to say all kinds of things, and we'll even lie, because there's a guy that like won't be in a room with me or in a Discord server if I'm in there, because he claims I'm like the most nastiest person to talk to, even though we talk and privately and had nice conversation, and he's like trying to treat me as, oh, I'm this villain, bad guy. And Max claims I stalk him. Max Colby of Red Pill Religion. He claims I stalk him and his family. So, and he says, I'll get a restraining order if you don't stop stalking me. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever.
Dang, that's really interesting. How old are you, by the way?
24.
Oh, okay. I thought somewhere around there.
Well, yeah. Thank you for your questions, man. Hey, feel free to stay on, because we'll be sure to do a circle around. So if you have any other questions, feel free to think of any. But at least you got to know a little bit more about me.
Right. Yeah.
Which then leads me to this person. It is the one and only, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed the Avo, the Ave Meister. It's Ave, the candy corn doggo. Woof, woof, woof. Why do you say that every time? It's like, humans, speak human language, for example. Okay, anyways.
Bark, bark. Does that help? All right.
Yes, that helps.
Yes, I do have a question now. This is something that I probably should have known about before, but I honestly have not looked into it. Does the Bible condemn cannibalism? And if so, like, what are some examples of how it's bad or anything like that?
Yeah,
like, that's a sin. I'm pretty sure it's a sin, right?
Yeah, there actually is, and this is where I'm going to get into how this would be a problem with Catholicism. Because there is a verse in the Torah that mentions this. So let's go ahead and let's see here. let me actually then just go to exegetical apologetics because they provide the verse. But if you don't believe me either way, you can just like type in the cannibalism Bible verses and such to point it out. But
I know
there's
I probably should have done that, but I figured you're like
Well-
the best person to ask about it.
well, there's also this. So I'm glad you at least asked. So let me go here. So let's go to the particular text. So let's see. We have the issue of, it being the flesh and blood. So there is texts in the Bible where it says that you shall not eat blood and such. So let's go ahead and see if I can find it. All right, yeah, here we go. So Leviticus chapter 17, verse 14 says, "For as for the life of all flesh, its blood is identified with its life. Therefore," so he says, therefore, meaning that, because the blood is identified with life, this is what it means. "I said to the sons of Israel, you are not to eat the blood of any flesh, for the life of all flesh is its blood. Whoever eats it shall be cut off." This is Leviticus chapter 17, verse 14. And Leviticus 17:10 forbids the eating of any blood. So let's go. Let me point this out. So make sure for some of y'all that are putting doubts or anything like that, we can just close this to bed. Leviticus 17, verse 10. "And whatsoever man there be of the house of Israel or the stranger that sojourn among you that eateth any manner of blood, I will even set my face against the soul that eateth blood, and will cut him off among his people." Verse 14. "For it is the life of all flesh, the blood of it is for the life thereof. Therefore I said unto the children of Israel, you shall eat the blood of no manner of flesh, for the life of all flesh is the blood thereof. Whosoever eateth it shall be cut off." So Leviticus chapter 17.
Is that referring to only humans?
Yes, because the issue is in terms of the issue, it says, because note earlier, "And whatsoever man there be of the children of Israel or the stranger that sojourn among you, which hunteth and catcheth any beast that be eaten, he shall even pour out the blood thereof and cover it with dust." So it does also mention in issues of beasts, refers to this. So we have to pour it out and such. So it can also mention this, but it's also saying it in general concerning the issue of blood, because the problem is that if you go to other texts of the Bible, it would refer to where it's talking about, it says cut off of him among his people. You have verses, and I'm going to get to those, where it's referring to it as a sin, like a judgment or a curse that is brought upon people. So let me go to one particular text. So you have Leviticus 26, verse 27 to 29 being an issue. And this is in the same book, Leviticus chapter 26, verse 27 to 29. So let me pull it up. I don't know why I even delete the word app sometimes. I just need to keep it up. So Leviticus. So let me just make sure to get the text. 26 in verse 27 to 29. 26. "And if you will not for all this hearken unto me, but walk contrary unto me, then I will also walk contrary unto you also in fury, and even I, will chastise you 7 times for your sins. And you shall eat the flesh of your sons, and eat the flesh of your daughters shall ye eat." So he's obviously using this in a issue that they're going to be in sin because of their disobedience and such, and so they're going to eat the sons of their flesh and such. So that's one issue. And where we see other instances of this is Deuteronomy 28, verse 49, Deuteronomy 28, verses 53 to 57, Jeremiah chapter 19, verses 8 through 9, Lamentations chapter 2, verse 20, Lamentations chapter 4, verse 10, and Ezekiel chapter 5, verse 10. So those are verses where it is obviously seen as a judgment text. And that's how cannibalism is done. And this is where also, again, the problem of the Roman Catholic Church with their view of the Eucharist, for example. They believe that's the literal flesh and blood of Jesus. And if that's Jesus teaching people to, eat his literal flesh and blood, which is also a of a human nature and says that's human flesh, not divine flesh, but human flesh, then they are partaking in cannibalism. Jesus supposedly then, according to Catholicism, is telling them to eat human flesh. That would mean Jesus is breaking the law and therefore would not be this sinless, spotless lamb that fits the atonement.
Right. That's another direction that this could go in. Oh,
Mhm.
good. Sorry for such a dark question. I just
No,
wanted
you're
to
good.
get
You're
some
good.
clarification on that. All right.
By the way, as a Southern Baptist, Kyle of Non-Sec, hold up. Oh, excuse me. Not all Baptists do that. I'm a Southern Baptist, and we rarely do the whole communion thing with the Lord's Supper. It's just something that we don't necessarily do all the time. All right, yeah, all right. I'm going to find you on Twitter then and send you the link there.
Hello.
Oh, hello, Simone. Oh, Simone. I forgot you don't like Simone.
Hi.
Sorry, I'm just so happy because of the new lifestyle change diet that I am partaking in.
I heard that's pretty good.
I would recommend anyone to get involved with that. It'll definitely change your life a bit if you haven't been on it already.
Well, well, I don't really have the best diet, but I try to eat healthy. I do love oatmeal, that's for sure.
Well, there you go. All right. Well, thank you for your question, Abe, which then I swear it's like people just keep popping in and we're just going to get these questions. Now it's Simone's turn to ask her question.
Let's see. Gosh. Let me think. I guess you can come back to me.
All right. Let's see here. Seeing some weird video on Twitter. This is what I get for being tortured there. Okay. So we're still waiting on Kyle to show in because I sent him the link on I did, right? Did I? Let me just double check. Yeah, I sent the link there. So while we do that, let's take a look here and some of our things. Remember to send in your questions if you haven't sent them already. So let's see here. Questions. All right. Do you have any tips for inspiring Christian inspiring Christian apologist YouTube channel? Or I think you mean aspiring or something along those lines. Logan makes videos, by the way, asked this question. My tips would be put a focus or know what you want to do with it and what your thing is. Because now my goal and my focus now, along with doing general type of a biblical apologetics and covering different grounds, I want to also make my strong suit, basically, I guess, like your major. My focus is mostly on Old Testament apologetics, like dealing with the Old Testament, because it's a book that not too many people focus on these days in modern Christianity. So put like a major focus that you want to deal with. That would be one of the things I would recommend that would help you out. So let's see. Any others? Okay. So far, nothing else. Oh, Matt C. Hey, what do you think of communion as an ordinary means of grace? That's how most of us presbys think of it. I'm assuming Reformed Baptists think of it the same way. Well, I'm a Southern Baptist, but I do have Reformed understandings. Well, I would say that I would agree with that particular thing. Like it can be a means of grace that usually gets handed down. I would agree with that particular statement. So, yeah. Anyways, thank you for your question there, Matt C. I see we have the one and only, the man who manages to rock one of these trendy hipster type of hairdos that's coming out that I don't have the hair to pull off these days because I'm going bald almost. It is the man himself, the stand-up comedian of all people, the co-host of the Non Sequitur. It is Kyle. Well, I forget names because I am a doofus that can't read. Oh, Kyle Curtis. There you go. Anyways, hey, how you doing?
What an introduction. I'm good. How are you?
Doing pretty good.
Hey.
Doing pretty good. By the way, I'm actually considering trying to do stand-up comedian myself. So we'll
That was
see
a
how
good joke right there. You're starting out well.
I see what you did there.
Oh,
You
ouch.
little. Okay. We'll see how it turns out.
I'm joking. I think you'd be
I
fine.
know. I know you are.
I think you'd be fine at that.
Yeah.
So what's going on?
Oh, not much. We're about an hour and 15 minutes away from shutting down the stream because we've had a good time having a lot of people on here with different questions and such.
You've been debating quite a bit, haven't you?
Yeah, I've had 2 and 1. Well, I wouldn't consider the modern day hysteria a debate. I'd say just more of a discussion. But yeah, I've been having some debates that because people have been asking me for it and such. And there's going to be another one coming up before the one with Aaron Ra on y'all's show, and that's debating Mr. Brass on modern day hysteria about the historicity of the virgin birth.
Mr. Brass.
Yeah, Brass wisdom.
Oh, I thought you two hated each other.
That's why I was curious, but apparently he's wanted to debate someone on that, and modern day hysteria called me up. So that's why I'm kind of curious as to, I wonder, like, if the day shows up and he finds out I don't know if he knows it's me, but if he finds out that it's me, like he said, oh, never mind, I'm not going to debate this guy because, well, I've reported him on Twitter because he's harassing me.
That is an amazing impression of Mr. Brass.
I showed him the video. I showed General Sentinel Apologetics Robert Rowe of that video from when where he's basically responding to David Wood, and and Rob's like, oh yeah, man, this guy's already like 5 minutes in. This guy's just annoying.
Yeah, he's quite the character, I'll tell you.
Yeah,
I don't, I understand his honestly, I understand his position in terms of being religious more so. I understand being a deist more than I can being a specific theist, because to me, it's just a question that, I don't think anybody can know specifically. So with that, I'm with him, but his approach and the way that he interacts with people is just, it's, and I guess, if you're a deist, you're not concerned about bringing people to whatever deity that you believe in. So, I mean, I guess in a way that does make sense. But he's certainly not working, if that were the case, he's certainly not working towards bringing anyone on his side. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. He's definitely has some interesting ideas and such. That's why I'm kind of curious because you never really hear that thesis much about the historicity of the virgin birth. Like you would hear more so from some people that deny it, like Black Hebrew Israelites and such.
Yeah.
But never historicity.
I have if I may, I don't know what order you're going in, and I don't want to break in front of anyone.
No. You're next.
But I have a question, and it's one that I heard the other day from a friend of mine, and I hate to be for you to be the person that I asked this to, because it's a really hard question. I mean, just like on an emotional level, and the person that got asked this question the other day couldn't really answer it. So I'm curious to see if there's an answer that anyone maybe in this call can give me. Okay, let's say I'm going to use my mother as an example. Okay. All right. So, me and my mother are very close, and she's religious. Okay. Yeah. Me not being religious, I die. She dies. And obviously I don't go to heaven because I don't believe. She goes to heaven. Now, will she forget all about me, forget that she ever had a son, that I even existed? Or will she have that memory of me and knowing that I'm in hell or wherever, I'm separated from her? So basically my question is, does God, in your view, will he wipe that memory away so she doesn't have those thoughts? Or will she be in heaven with those thoughts? And how can she, totally be happy if she knows that I'm separated and either, being eternally punished or just separated from wherever she is for all of eternity?
Right.
Wow.
Well, I don't particularly know how that will happen. All the Bible tells us is that, and I'm sure that that's part of where the question comes from, where it's about that God will wipe away all tears and that there will be no sorrow in heaven That's as much as we go to for that. But there's nowhere we're talking about how necessarily this would work in terms of the question of do we still have those memories?
So let's say that's the case then, that he wipes away all tears and she doesn't have the thought of me anymore. Is that really my mother?
Oh,
Like assuming that that's the case, that he's wiped away the memories and such.
Right. Is that really my mother? Or is it just some brainwashed, wiped clean soul?
Well, I would say that it would be the mother regardless of the condition that she would have. I would just say that it was being a different state. Like for example, like let's say if my brother, for example, were to have like his whole memory wiped or like lobotomized, like people would say the same thing, like that's not the same person I remember, but that's the that would be my brother, just that there's a difference in terms of what he remembers or what he knows or how he functions and such. But in the case of what you're talking about, with that being your mother in heaven, and if you were in hell and such, that would still be your mother in that case. But again, like I said, we don't know how particularly they would operate.
Sure.
We don't know if they'll keep the memory or if they will have it erased. The Bible never tells us.
We're dealing in hypotheticals here. I understand that, but
Right.
I guess my ultimate point is: are you okay with knowing that there's a possibility that your mind's going to be completely altered to forget everybody that you ever knew that isn't there?
Mm-hmm. I would say that possibly, like, I mean, overall I don't like the general idea of that, but then again, there's a lot of things that happen today that I know are going to be somewhat beneficial for society and beneficial for survival and such, but I know that it's also a bit cruel and times to me, that seems, but I know there's a purpose and there's an intent behind it, and there's a ultimate end game that comes as a result. For example, evolution, in terms of that, there's a lot of suffering and such that was a result of it, but then you get people like us, for example, that bring about the ability and the possibility to be able to bring about change, and hopefully to preserve the economy, or no, not the economy, or is that the word for referring to like the natural thing, or is that
the ecology? Are you talking about?
Like I'm talking about like
the biosphere.
Like biosphere, the natural world and such. Because is it economy or is it?
Economy is money. Ecology is nature.
Okay, the ecology then, because I know there's a word that was used in some of the science and like National Geographic films that I've seen that touch on it. But my point being is that like there's things like that I would consider the way that how we got there was cruel, but
the ends justify the means.
Right. That what happened is that we're going to eventually, there's ends that justifies the means and such. And so one of them being that, you have all these beautiful creatures and such that exist, which I don't know, for me, in one regard, I would say, yay, furries having inspirations and they exist and they being wonderful, fun people. Hey, in the chat. And then you have us creating like means of science and such that is able to help out not just us human beings, but to help bring help in the natural world and to help other species like dogs, cats, and other things in ecosystems. That's the word I was looking for, ecosystem. Thrive and survive and such. So that would be it. So I think that, going back to your question, if that's a possibility, again, as we're dealing in hypotheticals, would I be okay with that? I would, like anything else, as I've mentioned, including the issue of evolution and such, I would have my doubts and such. I would have some issues with that personally, but
he would make you forget them, those doubts. He would make you forget them, those doubts.
Right, exactly. And so as I would have those still and then be wiped away, again, I stand with my point that I think that there can still be something that is brought out. In this case, it is the will of God and such.
But this is my ultimate question, and I'm interested to hear anybody else if they have an opinion, because I really do want to hear everybody's opinion on this. Is that really you though? If you have to have all of your bad memories wiped away, where it's only what that deity specifically wants you to think, essentially, is what it is. He's programming you to think a specific way. is that really you anymore?
Well, I would say that
that's
the
not-
issue is
That's
that
not
it's
really.
well, because the issue is about the, there are certain memories, and there are some times where certain memories are erased from some people today in the world, but we don't say, at least in terms of observing this from even just a natural order and such, that that person's not, for example, Jacob Bob, who gets either a lobotomy or either has something that has trauma that causes him to forget certain things.
Don't we though? Don't we? If somebody's not acting right, like if somebody has midlife crisis, don't we always say, well, Bob's just not himself. That's not Bob.
Well, we say that he's not himself, but we don't deny that that is still the person.
I mean, physically, yeah.
Right. And so that's what I would refer to. But if you're referring to it in that particular sense, then I guess you could say that particular case, no, but that's more like, a idiom that we use, but it's not really saying that that's no longer, Jacob Bob. And we could take that analogy even up to, that person in heaven of Jacob Bob going through that. We would still say the same thing compared to the other points that we just brought up about on the earthly analogies.
Well, that's the problem that I'm having here. We're trying to compare heaven, comparable to places on earth, which is completely impossible to do. It is a different dimension. And also, your question is that you're saying that, because the passage says that God wipes away tears means that he somehow brainwashes people. Now, I'm not entirely sure that's how it works. None of us really are.
Just hypothetical.
Yeah, it's hypothetical, of course. But when you're saying, is that person really the same person? It is. But
well, here's the thing. I'm not saying that that's what it says. I'm just there are two possibilities. There's only one of two possibilities. Either she will continue to have the memory of me, or she won't. Those are your only two options. So either one of those is going to be is going to suck. If she has to spend eternity knowing that I'm being punished, for eternity in hell, and she's not, I'm not with her in heaven, that's going to be miserable. Or she's not going to remember another thing about me. Both of those. Really,
the main root of the question is, can people in heaven mourn those who are not with them in heaven?
Yes.
And I think to some extent they can. For instance, when people, they have guardian angels and stuff, when people are visited by their parents, in their dreams, perhaps there are ways to go about that. Now, I don't know specifically in the Bible where it allows humans to do that, but there have been, of course, many reports over thousands of years of that being the case, where people have been visited by their loved ones and whatnot.
Doesn't it say, though, that there will be no sorrow in heaven?
Specifically, I'm not sure.
RCA?
Yeah, it does. There is a verse where it says that. I forget the exact one, but yeah, I do remember. I think it's somewhere within Revelation, if I'm not mistaken, where it says this.
And that's pretty specific. So, I mean, if you look at it that way, we're only left with one option. And that is that you don't have any memories of it.
Well, that's one thing. Again, because it doesn't say specifically that our memories are wiped. That would be something that we would.
Oh, yeah, I know that, but I'm just saying it's either you have the memory or you don't. And if you don't have it, then it went somewhere. It's it's not with you anymore.
Okay, let's say in heaven you do retain the memories. However, you also have a greater understanding of the world in that plane of existence. That could perhaps reconcile what happened.
Maybe. Do you have a brother or a sister?
Me? Yeah.
Yes.
I have two.
Are you really close to them?
Kinda. Yeah.
I mean, but if you spent eternity in heaven without them, that would make you horribly sad. I hope. I mean, I don't know your your family history or whatever. I'm assuming.
I mean, if you compare that to me being in a prison somewhere on Earth and never being able to see them again, yeah. But in heaven, things might be different. We don't really know the complexities of what happens to consciousness in that kind of state. True.
But I'm just, it's just a question of I'm really going on what the text says with the sorrow thing. And if I know that me and my mother are very close, so if she wasn't able to spend eternity with me, then no matter what, I'm going to assume under no amount of higher learning or anything that she could discover, me not being there and her knowing that I'm off burning somewhere for all of eternity is going to be insurmountable. That kind of grief, or at least I hope so. And if it's not, then that means she was altered some way. And then that goes back to my question: is that really her then? It's a tough question. I know. I mean, I
don't know.
It's a very tough question, but it's I think it's one that people should ask themselves.
Mm-hmm.
When you're talking about worshiping a deity for all of eternity, what kind of deity are you worshiping?
I mean, yeah, I mean, that's very complicated, I mean, just thinking about it, because, we don't know a specific answer to that. But basically, when we're with, I'm going to say this, when we're with God, that dimension is so different, like, on earth. And, like, for example, my, well, I just recently lost another aunt of mine.
Mm-hmm.
She passed away, I think the other day.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. But not too long ago, I had a visitation from one of my cousins. Like, she came to visit me in my dream, and she looked so pretty. I can't describe it, but she looked so beautiful. And it was so surreal, like it was so vivid, like I could actually reach out and touch her. And so I believe that our loved ones, like they watch over you. For me, it's kind of hard for me to believe that they don't remember their loved ones that are still on earth. Like, some people don't remember, but I believe that our deceased loved ones come and visit us, so they remember us. God, because God hears all, sees all, and knows all. And so loved one that wants to visit that person on earth, then that he will allow him or her to see, his niece, nephew, cousin, whatever. So we don't really know exactly, how to answer that question. But to me, I believe that our family members who have passed away still know us, like they think about us. Because, I believe that because, I saw my deceased cousin. So it's like, yes and no.
Understand.
If that makes sense, I'm not trying to confuse you.
Yeah, and I'm not, I'm not going to sit here and take anything, away from you that makes you feel better. If I've had dreams before, I was really close to my grandfather, and he passed away, and I have dreams about him all the time. So I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I understand to you, it felt, it was more than a dream, and I'm not going to say anything to take that away from you. So
I would also say that, like, okay, you've heard of when people have near-death experiences, they go through this tunnel and they see like a flashback of all their memories throughout their entire life. Well, it might be possible that in heaven, one can revisit those memories as if they were actually there. Now, that's one of the many complexities of this higher plane. We don't actually know what the capabilities are, but that might be a possibility as well. For the individual, if they are missing their loved ones, they can go back in time, more or less, in their memories and kind of relive them. There's always that as well.
Maybe that, but how do we know?
I mean,
how do we know? That's my, how do we know?
We don't. We honestly don't.
And the sad thing is we have to die to find out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why if you're concerned about this, I would suggest reading the Bible.
Or if you're concerned that you only get one of these, you should probably spend it being happy with yourself.
Well, do you think we're not?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know you. I mean, I know you, but I don't know you like what you're, if
Like
you,
what's going on behind closed doors, basically.
If you're holding back from, anybody can be holding back from anything for a religious reason, or they're living a way that normally they wouldn't if it weren't for the fear of, angering a deity. I don't know. You may be completely happy with the way that you are, and if that's fine and you're not harming anyone, then I say go for it. That's why I only have issues with the religious that their religion causes harm to people. That's the crux of my issue.
All right. Good question there, man. Like I said, one of the things we like is welcoming like thought-provoking type of questions. Just making sure make sure you're not a troll though, like that one guy who I found out wasn't actually a Muslim in last week's stream.
I'm really a Christian. I'm just kidding.
It was a Christian pretending to be a Muslim and using repeated like speaker's corner Muslim arguments. So
there's got to be a verse against that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
imitate. Yeah, it's got to be.
But hey, the guys that usually do this are Eastern Orthodox, so they don't care about the Bible. They just care about like their own behavior and what their tradition tells them. Heck, take a look at what happened with me and Jay Dyer, and you'll see he disobeyed the commands against cursing and such. And so
I gotta watch that because I like Jay Dyer too. We had him on. Before, and he's a very smart guy. Very smart guy.
I don't doubt that, but
he was arrogant. He was so smug. The way he treated RC was completely unfair.
I haven't seen it yet, but some people just have that that some might call Steve smug. Some people just have that.
Oh, it's worse than that. It's worse. Like I'm talking
I'm
like
trying
he
to be
kept
civil here, okay? But it was bad.
Like he kept saying, "No, you're wrong about that. You retard." Like he just kept.
Oh no, he used the R word.
I know. I never heard someone spout off that word like a machine gun before, but he managed to do so. And he ended the stream early. Like he said, like as soon as I mentioned, that the church fathers taught sola scriptura, he's like, "No, you have no idea what you're talking about. I'm done. You're an idiot." And then just ends the stream.
What were y'all debating on?
Sola scriptura.
English, please.
Sola scriptura, which is Latin, so you're technically correct, meaning scripture alone is what the word means. But the concept is that scripture alone is the only infallible and final rule of authority. So meaning that while we can accept other authorities, like for me, the Baptist Faith and Message and the London Baptist Confession of Faith, we also can appeal to pastors and church council and such of our church government. And of course, parents and the political government as well. It's just that concerning our faith and practice, the scriptures are the final and ultimate source of authority on what determines our faith and walk and such. So that's what that is. His position is the Eastern Orthodox position, which teaches that scripture, while being good, you cannot interpret it or understand it without consulting the early church, and that tradition itself is also sacred like scripture is. So in other words, tradition is also divine and sacred, as well as noted by several other sources, like in Reverend Thomas Fitzgerald's articles that you can find online, and what they will hand out if you go to an event where an Eastern Orthodox church group is at. They'll hand out some of these things where it talks about how tradition is valued.
He's more extreme than you would say?
Well, he would be more extreme than me in the sense that he's definitely an extreme kind of guy. Like I've talked to people like, what's his name? Drake Shelton, aka the Southern Israelite. Like this guy's an this guy's an Eastern
not Southern Israelite.
This guy's an Eastern Orthodox Southern Israelite. That's how I would compare.
How do you out extreme a Calvinist? How is that possible?
Well, there is a way, but there's also extreme Calvinists in terms of like people that behave just like how Jay and them do. But Calvinists like me, I mean, you've talked to me. How would I be extreme? We've had wonderful conversations. There's a video out now for some reason that says RC Apologist exposed secret closet homosexual.
Where's that? Wait, who did that?
Wow.
some guy by the name of John, as Jan Kubiak. And the video is just 29 seconds long. Let me pull it up here so that you know I'm not making this up, and you know where this is.
Stupid.
Like, here it is. This is from this debate, and it says, secretly homosexual anti-gay apologist exposed.
There's so much to unpack in. There's so much to unpack in that title.
Oh, wait, it gets worse. There's the description. Christian anarchist, a layman Christian apologist who changed his username to RC Apologist, is a homosexual who pretends to be a Christian apologist, outwardly bashing gays while hitting on men. Shameful.
I've never. Okay, let me clear that up. By the way, can you show how many subscribers he has real quick?
It doesn't really say. That's what's even funnier.
It says 0, doesn't it? I thought it said 0.
Probably because it's only been one video, and that was like posted a few weeks ago.
Okay, let me address this. I watch people very closely, especially when it comes to the LGBTQ issue, because me being gay, I'm very close to that. I've never heard RCA Apologist ever bash gay people. He's always been very nice to me and pleasant with me, and he has a sense of humor. A sense of humor does not equate to hitting on or flirting with another man. This guy needs to lighten up and learn what a sense of humor is.
Mm-hmm.
I would normally say F you to him, but we're on a Christian show, so I'll refrain from that.
Exactly, because if you say it, then we're gonna have to send Ave over into, you know, whatever furries do that can cause death.
I can be
Wow, that man.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny though. That's funny. Yeah, I've never heard you say anything anti. You know, I never heard it. Now, as soon as I say that, there'll be a floodgate of videos of you, you know, saying homos are stupid and all this other kind of stuff. Don't let that happen.
Some nonsense taken out of context as usual. You know.
Yeah, as usual. But anyways, yeah, thank you for your question there. I do want to get, because we do have some people. By the way, thank you, Snow Princess, for writing down these questions, because I have terrible memory and sometimes can't focus on the live chat compared to Kyle, who is probably pretty good at that when it comes to his streams.
You have to be, man. But I'm gonna head out because I'm tired and I'm gonna get some sleep. But it was nice talking to you all.
Oh, thank you, man.
Nice
to meet you.
All right, have a good night.
We'll catch you later.
Catch you. All right. So, by the way, for those, that was Kyle Curtis of Non Sequitur. Tune into his show on the 20th, where I will be debating atheist Aaron Ra on Is the Bible Relevant? So tune in for that. It will be a debate that is definitely one of, you know, epic proportions, because that guy is very huge in the atheist community. For those who want to know how big we're talking here, his subscriber count on YouTube is 194,000. So there's concern in how many followers he's got, and that's in terms of subscriber counts. In terms of his Twitter, for example, he's also spoken at various places and been a huge voice of you know, trying to advocate for atheism and such. I don't know why I can't find him on the Twitter thing. Like, something's just not popping up. Oh wait, now I found it. I have to put a space between raw. Where is it? Followers 26,000. So, well, I guess his Twitter followings is different, but you get the point. So yeah, so tune in on the on December 20th for that particular debate that will be going down on Is the Bible Relevant? All right, so let's go ahead and check out what Snow Princess put. So Davidson, 1873. Curious of your thoughts on this. I live in the South. I own guns. Been told as a Christian I should not have weapons. What do you think? Well, the apostles had weapons. In fact, they were told to get swords by Jesus to defend themselves and such. So I would pretty much say that, you know, go with what the apostles say. So there's a video, if you want to check it out, that is on my channel. You just have to, I'll show it up really real quick so you can know what to type in. Christians do live up to what Jesus said, a response to IIP, which is incognito Islamic production. So just type that in, and it's a collab I actually also did with a guy by the name of Veckel, in which we both go over this Muslims saying that, you know, it's trying to teach Christians the Bible doesn't teach us or tell us that we're allowed to use self-defense and such, but the apostles were able to do self-defense, and they did self-defense with weapons and such. They had swords, they had knives. That's clearly laid out in the text. So, yeah. I don't have the particular verses. That's just the one resources that I would go recommend for you to check out, because I did all my study and laying out the exhaustive resource on there for the verses, and then Veckel had his verses as well that I didn't come up with. So go there. Plus, there's a funny clip of us getting blown up by a suicide bomber kitty who yells "Allah Kitty Bar" at the end of it. So that'll probably cheer your day up. Yeah, it sounds funny. It's a lot funnier than you think. Okay, let's see. Whoa, we have a lot of people here. Chris Wilson, even. Okay, so there's a lot of just statements so far. Hey, is there a way I can get on to voice chat? I'm on Discord. Well, I've seen you found your way in there. In on Discord too, and haha, free time. Yeah, I prefer natural and inalienable rights. Okay, no, that's referring to coming from Ave. Let's see, Chris Wilson, you don't have to be. Okay, I think most of these are just like comments and not questions. So if anyone can point out a question for me, I'll be sure to do that. But until then, the Atomic Glue asks in Discord, how many logical fallacies did Jay Dyer commit? I lost count. Well, he did a lot of the ad hominem a bit, because he just kept saying, you know, the reason I'm wrong is because I'm a retard or I'm stupid, or that I have no idea what I'm talking about. That's literally just the summary in general. So it was there's a lot that happened in there. So I forgot, I lost count too, and I was there. So all right, we'll see you later, man. Davidson, glad you could join us at least. All right, let's see here. Oh wait, yeah, okay. So yeah, thank you for your question there, Atomic. All right. Let me just, I think I'm done for Discord for now, because we're about 40 minutes out. I'm going to try to spend our time on here, as well as go back around on our Q&A and with you wonderful people. Okay.
Aww.
So, oh yes, y'all do get that special shout out. Let's see. Chris Wilson, have free time. Not haha. The site has a tendency to make my thumb hit the send button too soon before editing typos. Matt, see. Kay, can you bring on a proper presby sometimes and chat about? Yeah, I mean, I can probably do that. If you think you're a proper Presbyterian, I would most gladly invite you on and such. So, yeah, feel free to come on, or you know, if you recommend or know a good Presbyterian, especially that's on here, or that I can get in contact with, feel free to let me know. You know, I'm willing to have anybody on theological discussion to have literally just that, a theological discussion. So, yep. All right. So let's okay. And of course, Wildheart could think of a question. All right. So then let's just get that to us going into the group here. Let's go over to Snow Princess. Wait, hold up. Trying to remember, because it's always the first come first serve order. So I'm trying to remember. Okay, so let me go up to the screen on the top. Okay. Snow Princess came. Oh yeah, so I'm right. Snow Princess, you came in, so you're first. So go ahead, take it away.
What's your favorite Christmas song?
My favorite Christmas song? You know, interestingly enough, it's oh, let me just make sure I get the right words to it. I would say my favorite is "Oh Come All Ye Faithful."
That's a good one.
Oh
That's
yeah,
a good one.
yeah,
Yeah.
and here's how it became my favorite. So there's a band called Twisted Sister. Um, the band that sings songs like "We're Not Gonna Take It" and "I Wanna Rock." And so you have that band. So I'm a crazy 80s hair metal type of band guy, and they did a Christmas album one time. I remember I was like in high school or middle school or something when it came out, and that song was the first one on there, and it was basically the lyrics of "Oh Come All Ye Faithful" to the tune of "We're Not Gonna Take It." So you hear the song, the instrumental take, "We're Not Gonna Take It," and instead of saying "We're Not Gonna Take It," it says "Oh come all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant," and it's just like that to the instruments playing "We're Not Gonna Take It." Like, it was epic. And then I listened to other renditions in the regular thing, and they sounded just like how he did it. But of course, only in vocals and range. So it's like it was perfect to match it, and I liked the way that it was done. And of course, this is a crazy thing for me to say. Like, the band called Bad Religion, which they definitely have their position on religion and such, but for some reason,
I wonder what it is.
yeah, and so for some reason, this band called Bad Religion did a cover of "Oh Come All Ye Faithful," which I'm like, see, even people like this can get a song in a joy and decide to cover a song that lyrics are literally saying, "Oh come, let us adore him. Oh come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord." So again, just shows that you can't escape that, especially even in some of the secular music that calls upon Christ. So there you go. That's one of my favorites, because it also is Christ centered. It's not like your basic jingle bells, jingle all the way, talking about snow.
Is that what you think my favorite is?
What?
Do you think mine involves jingle bells or snow?
I don't know what your favorite is.
Joy to the world.
Ah, yes, Joy to the World.
Well, I like Mary, Did You Know?
That's a good one. Like,
Mine, Carol the Bells.
Hey, I keep seeing a meme that's going around, like the Batman slapping Robin meme, where it shows the lyrics, "Mary, did you know?" And Batman slaps Robin after saying, "Is like, yes, she did," and like it shows it first, and I'm like, oh, okay, there's definitely that, but you still got to admit, it's still a catchy tune. And funny enough, also, fun fact for those, and I'm sure that Simone knows this, for Vic Mignogna fans, Vic Mignogna, the voice of Edward Elric from Fullmetal Alchemist, did a cover of "Mary, Did You Know?" But instead, for all you geeks, it was "Vader, Did You Know?" So it was talking about Vader, did you know, as in, like, Vader, did you know your son Luke Skywalker would do these things? It's
Oh my.
it was interesting, to say the least.
Oh yeah, that's epic.
Yeah. So yeah, he did make some good stuff. That's for sure. Okay. So yeah. All right. So thank you for your question there, Snow Princess. And then I believe that gets us to Religious Fanboy. So Religious Fanboy, what is your question?
I wasn't quite sure how to do a. I had looked over Ecclesiastes, but I was gonna do a Bible study on next, but I wasn't quite sure if I had a question for that yet. So I'm gonna ask you a silly one. Do you consider Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas a Halloween movie or a Christmas movie, or both?
Such a stupid question. It's obviously a Thanksgiving movie.
Of course.
Absolutely. It is a
Makes
Thanksgiving
sense.
movie because food is involved. And when food is involved, that's why it is a Thanksgiving one. Like the Grinch Stole Christmas, because what happens at the end? A who feast. And when you think of feast, you think of Thanksgiving. And when you think of Thanksgiving, you think Illuminati. Okay, but seriously, yeah, I would say both.
Yeah, I totally think of the Illuminati when I think of food. Yeah.
There you go, because it's everywhere, right?
Yeah, yes, it's everywhere. Oh, so sneaky.
That tryptophan's gonna get you. It's bad.
There you go.
Oh.
Wait, whoa. Before you, oh, by the way, thank you for your question there. But A, before I ask, you asked me a question. Let me ask you a question. You saw the Trans-Siberian Orchestra live?
Yes, I did. Oh my
You
goodness.
son of a gun.
It was absolutely bonkers. Oh my. Like, this was in high school. I was in my 11th year. Well, 11th year. I was my junior year? 11th grade? Whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so I went with my friend. And it was in like this big stadium and stuff. And I wasn't like in the front row or anything. I was like up in the stadium seats. But the lasers they had, I mean, all the smoke machines. I mean, it was absolutely wild. I can't even describe it. Like as soon as it started too, like it was just epic. The entire thing was incredible. I highly recommend you guys see them live.
Will do, man. I'll make sure to definitely give it a shot whenever, because they usually come within my area, so I'll make sure to try to see if there's any like seatings for that. All right, so thank you for that. Let's go to Simone. Simone, sorry, bad habit.
You can call me whatever you want.
What's your question?
If you can have one good Christmas present, what would it be and why?
If I could just have one good Christmas present?
Yeah.
What the heck? I just got it. Oh. Okay, I just got a text. And so it's a recipe. All right. Let's because I have my Christmas list on my phone. So because that's probably one of the things, because books right now is the main thing. The one thing that I would want right now that would be a good Christmas present, and why, is the Old Testament in archaeology and history by editors Jeannie Ebeling, J. Edward Wright, and Mark Elliott. This, by the way, the cheap place to get it, being the ChristianBook.com, is $54.99. So that shows you what you're dealing with price. Is a very exhaustive, like 700 to 800 page book that deals with recent scholarship and archaeological findings and up to date, because this was published in 2017 from Baylor University Press, that goes over the Old Testament strictly. And like I said, my main focus is trying to focus on the Old Testament and such, because you have things like the Exodus. A majority of scholars believe the Exodus didn't happen. The majority of scholars don't believe that Moses existed. And unfortunately, some people cling to that idea, even in the Christian world today. And so because of this, I wanted to see the archaeological and historical evidence. And this, from what I've read on the reviews and what I've read elsewhere, is the book that does that. It gets to the heart of the issue, and it gives you up-to-date stuff. So it's not just the stuff that you would find in old books like the Popular Handbook of Archaeology, like from Norman Geisler and various others, like the Reliability of the Old Testament by K.A. Kitchens. This is up-to-date with that and plus more information that we're picking up and discovering today. So that would be the good one, and that would be why.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, as I've said to many people before, I'm the most boring person you will ever shop for on Christmas, because what I want is books, books, books. Is
Nothing wrong with
Yeah, exactly. But Yeah, there you go. So let's see. Thank you for your question, by the way. Before we move into some of the people in the live chat, Ave, I don't think I saw. I saw there was actually a moment you were in some video or you were in the live chat of something where you mentioned something about me, you, and Calvinism. I forget what this was.
Oh yeah. This was. Jeez, I don't remember. Basically, my comment was that someone was criticizing it, and no, I'm sorry, criticizing you, and I said, well, RC actually introduced me to this whole concept, and I'm seriously considering it. I don't know if you responded to that, or honestly, I don't recall where this was. I think it was in a live stream, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Could it have possibly been the modern day hysteria thing where I was talking to a guy?
Yes, I think it was.
All right.
But yeah, basically they were saying, I think you said, if I could change the mind of someone, then I've done my job or something. I was responding to that, and I was like,
Right,
actually, you have, you did have an impact. So I wanted to, recognize you for that.
All right. Well, thank you for that. I will recommend something to you. And this is something, like I said, can be issued to you for free. Let's see. Let me pull this up on my thing because I'm having problems right now with my computer. Okay, there we go. So you can get this from Chapel Library because the one site that I used to get this from stopped shipping it. But you have Chapel Library. You can go here, put a request in for the sovereignty of God. It is pretty much I'm in the middle of reading it. I'm on page, of course, different publishers, different thing. I'm on page 180, which is like in this thing halfway done with the book. And it's a very good, exhaustive book that has been instrumental in demonstrating, like, showing Calvinism from the Bible. And in his introduction says, present-day conditions call loudly for a new examination and new presentation of God's omnipotence, God's sufficiency, God's sovereignty. From every pulpit in the land, it needs to be thundered forth that God still lives, that God still observes, that God still reigns. Faith is now in the crucible, is now being tested by fire, and there is no fixed and sufficient resting place for the heart and mind, but in the throne of God. And it covers a lot of topics. Like, it always starts with God's sovereignty as being the main two words he uses, followed by other things. Like it says, God's sovereignty defined, the sovereignty of God in administration, the sovereignty of God in salvation, the sovereignty of God in reprobation, in operation, the human will, human responsibility, prayer, and then even has a chapter called difficulties and objections. So he's going to engage in what some people will, of his time, which is similar to those of ours, what they will, criticize and bring as objections against it. So, and you can go to that website and put it and get it mailed to your house for free, like no charge, no price, not even a penny, for free.
Oh, wow! All right, that might just be my Christmas present to myself.
There you go. Or if you want, you can say it's from me if you want to, like, do a thing like that. But hey, who knows? Maybe one day I will, like, definitely get some money up and will actually send you a Christmas present that I pay with money to you, because you are my favorite dog.
Aww.
Arf, arf.
If I was over there, I would be, and you were in your fursuit, I would be giving you pets on your fursuit head. Yes.
Aw.
And
Yay!
I just wanted to let you guys know this. For friends, I like doing drawings for people as, like, Christmas gifts. So just let me know, like, if there's anything you guys think it would be cool, like if I did a drawing of for you guys, and I'll try to get it to you guys somehow online.
Yeah, sure.
Before Christmas. So yeah.
Yeah, sure thing, man. All right, let's see. We got about 25 minutes left, so let's see what we got in the chat. Let's see here. It's the potato chip cookies. Oh, yeah, that's what she was referring to. Yeah, recipes are great. I'm probably going to pull up the 18th century recipe from the Townsend and Son channel. There was TV in the 18th century. I am so lost and unaware. All right, let's see here. Not too bad. Off tonight. I'm interested in listening to some discussions regarding Christianity because RC is running stream. I have to figure out Abe's Telegram handle so I can bug him sometimes. Do you want to get that out, or do you? Because I don't know. Oh, snap! I didn't even know. Okay, because I sometimes have to, I need to like figure a way like get like 2 computers so that way I can have like multiple screens to look at. Yeah, no problem, man. But yeah, Chris Wilson is saying, he has to figure out your Telegram handle so that he can bug, I guess, you and me sometimes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't hear that. He was talking about Christmas stuff, and then I dropped out for some reason. I didn't even press anything. Huh.
Wait, you didn't press anything?
No. He was talking, and he just stopped talking, and I was like, "Oh, what happened?" And I was talking, and then I'm like, "Oh, I'm not on the call anymore."
Are you on your phone?
I'm on my mobile device. Yeah, my iPad.
Ah, great. Then I know what it is. It's doing the glitch again. It's that terrible time where if you're a mobile user, you will automatically drop out. So that's why Snow, Simone, and Religious aren't on their phones. They're on their computers. So that's why they didn't drop out. I don't know why it does that for specifically just like the mobile users. It's weird, and I have no idea. And plus, they're not going to bother fixing it since Google Plus and Hangouts is probably going to be shutting down soon. So we'll figure out ways to do this these streams in the future.
Okay, yeah, I mean it's not your fault. It's just some technical issues that we can't really control. Well, I guess we could if we're on our PCs, but it's okay.
Yeah, Chris Wilson. I'm trying to remember who you are because there are actually multiple people that I gave the link out to. There's the Kuze and an Asen White or Alson White. And I know that what is it? David that David guy, I forget his name. Davidson was among one of the other people. So I don't know if it's either Asen or if it's Kuze. Oh, Kuz. Okay, I got you. Okay, all right. So yeah, if Abe wants to, I mean, I can get him to message me I have his Twitter handle. I mean, that works, right? Like you just give someone that, and they can like message you.
Yeah, that works. That's fine.
Would you be okay with that though?
What you mean you giving him my Twitter?
Not the Twitter, the Telegram handle.
Does he have Telegram?
Mm-hmm.
Then yeah, sure, go for it.
All right, let me see here. All right, I just sent it to you, so just make sure you don't bother Abe too much. He has he's a busy scheduler. He is going around doing taste tests of all the candy corn that is out there to make sure it is sufficient, perfect candy corn to be distributed, especially on Halloween. That is the job of the candy corn dog, as well as him being rich and having lots of money. I'm talking billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars. I am the Donald. Yes, you're not gonna get away. You're not gonna get away with a Donald Trump impersonation. At least not for the next 2 years. But for me in 2020, who knows? That may happen, may not. But as long as you know this, I'm really rich.
Well, that's why I'm so orange.
Because I spent a lot of money on Cheetos to take a Cheeto bath.
You're wrong for that.
I'm always wrong for like a lot of things that I just try to make a joke out of. I've been on for 2 hours. What's the topic? Anything you want. This is a Q&A. So ask a question of whatever you want, my friends. So
Oh, it's my turn! Hooray!
Like,
Okay.
who is this? Because I seen Ken McCracken and other.
Oh, no, someone else. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Wait, cool. Sanaba? Oh no, I was just asking about the whole. I did ask about the Calvinism thing, just so that way I can recommend you that book. Because I'm in the middle of reading it, and it's like there's times like I can't put it down. Like it's that good for me.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Let's see. What's
Just, oh, sorry.
I see Chris saying Donald Trump is actually pretty tall, but Barron is a literal giant of a 12-year-old. He's like 6'12". How?
Dang.
Well then, I have no idea. We must discover the secrets of this person. We must extract DNA. And by that I mean, well, for some people it's doing drugs. I don't know. But the point being is, we must. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. It is like 20 minutes until we go out off the show. So this is why you people need to ask some questions. I am shaking my arm. It's making my voice go like this. All right. So, also, I watched Ralph Breaks the Internet today.
Oh, how was that?
Like just a
It's
bunch of.
great.
Oh, you saw it too. It's definitely a lot of pop culture references. I'll say that because like so much reference to different social media sites and how certain games and stereotypes that you get in how things have turned out. It's like a lot of and what was to me was even funniest about it was there's an MMO and that is portrayed in there. I think it's called Slaughter Race or something like that, and it's where you pretty much are a character that goes around, you customize your car and such, and you have to go on missions engaging like dealing with like stealing cars or something like that. So it's pretty much I forget, there was a game that was pretty much like that, where its main focus was while you could move around and like a Grand Theft Auto thing, the main focus was on driving and such. So pretty much almost like the one section of Grand Theft Auto 5 where you get to be Franklin stealing cars. It was pretty much like that. And like when it would show the character like talking in the game, like their avatar, it worked just like some of the MMOs where you just see generic mouth moving and the character just generically looking around the game like their avatars usually do. So I think like that kind of realism and such, like just while the cutscene characters, like the part that are actually in the game, move like with actual life and such, like us. Like I thought that kind of brought a sense of interesting, like funniness and yet nostalgia for those who played those kinds of games. So I that was just something I found interesting. Ken, RC, did you see where I am made the physical spiritual distinction about Abraham's seed? Not yet. I did see your comment where to go to. I'm going to take a look at it. But I do know that one thing is that he does say that he believes that Abraham's seed is physical and spiritual, because he tries to say that the seed, because this is where I catch him up, and this is what you're going to see tomorrow on my channel, is that he makes the error. By the way, for those who aren't familiar, what he's referring to is the guy Praise I Am That I Am, who was a disciple of the Shepherd's Chapel cult, and that's what it is. It's a cult that is in Arkansas, by the way. They teach the serpent seed doctrine, which teaches that Cain was not the product of Adam and Eve having relations. And in fact, that's the issue when you go into Genesis 4:1, where it says, "And Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord." So instead, they want to say that Eve actually had sexual relations with the serpent, who they believed to be Satan, and that Cain is actually the son of Eve and Satan. and that anyone that comes down from Cain's lineage is part of this satanic seed. So, yeah, have that, and we were debating that the other day. And you can check that up on my YouTube channel, as well as on JMD Apologetics channel. But there's a point where, while saying, that the word zera and sperma in the Greek, he says, well, it's referring to always a literal aspect. He then tries to say, well, there's a spiritual and literal in regards to some of these things. So yeah, like he'd try to do that with Abraham, for example. But what I did catch him up on in a question in the cross-examination is that I pointed out that there's a passage in which it says that the good seed are the children of the kingdom. The word used for seed is sperma there, which he believes is literally and only referring to literal being, born, like, seed, offspring. And so when it says the children of the kingdom, when it says the children of the kingdom, do you believe that refers to the children of God, and that we're children of God? He says yes. I'm like, and so it says that the good seed is that. So are we the sperma of God, the children of God? And he said that they dodged the question by saying that there's a spiritual and physical notion, in which I said, okay, so you believe it's spiritual and physical? It's like, yes. So not only spiritually, but we are physically children of God, sperma of God. And he said, yes. I'm like, all right. And that just pretty much proved my point that I'm not along with that. But he also believed that, as I pointed out in my opening statement and my rebuttal, that if you're going to hold that standard for, what Zera and such points out for that, about the children of God, note that we are called children of God, and even in this particular case, has sperma describing us as the children of God. And so by that means, God must have had sexual relations with humans to produce us, if you want to be consistent with your interpretation and translation of that particular Greek, and then for Hebrew, Zera word. And so, yeah, just be prepared for tomorrow, because you should have been a lot more prepared when it comes to making these certain arguments.
Yeah, it's going to be a doozy.
Yeah. Which Ken then says that Paul uses the Greek word to mean descendants and not literal sperm, which that was the part of Praise's arguments, like saying sperma, anyone with basic human reasoning and common sense can look at it and say, what does it look like? Sperma, sperm. It's referring to sperm. But as Ken notes, Richard Carrier tried to do that, and he got busted on it, because, like many of Richard Carrier's claims, doesn't really think too much on it, and that's why he's not getting his stuff peer reviewed in terms of like the stuff he's trying to promote out there, mostly. All right, so all right, so we got about 10 minutes. So since we don't have much more in the chat there, let's do one last round in here. Snow Princess, you're the first up.
Do you think with the new movie that Vanellope will become an actual crowned princess in the Disney princess lineup?
Oh my goodness. I think with this one already, that's probably going to happen. Like I in fact, hold on a second. Let me see, actually, because okay. Oh my goodness, that's actually a legit thing. That just occurred. That's the most frequently questioned is this person a Disney princess? I heard recently that Disney had considered it, actually making Vanellope a Disney princess. Like, it was legit on the table. But it's very possible that after this and the results, if there's a third one, that would definitely probably be a good confirmation, if not already the fact that they're discussing that amongst themselves. Notice we got talking from theology to Disney princesses. But hey, folks, we do allow some casual stuff to occur because hey, why not? Well, I was about to say Saturday, but it's Friday. You see, this is why you shouldn't trust me. But I'm more pumped up with energy than I've ever had. It's because of the whole lifestyle diet thing that I've taken. I like it. I can't get enough of it. It's just wonderful. So thank God. But yeah, thank you for your question. All right, so oh, for goodness sake, I see what you typed. Snow Princess said, "I just bother RC to bother Ave." Well,
Aw. What?
That's not the main reason why I do this, because I enjoy hanging out with all of you guys.
Yeah.
But
That's
it is an added bonus getting to talk to Ave.
Oh yeah.
Oh, thanks. It's nice
Ave
to meet you.
needs my folks. We need to make this happen. Ave, he's been on other shows. He's not just on here. He's also been on a Furry Raiders podcast. We need to get this guy his own show. You need it. You are worthy of it, my friend. You have the talent. You have you have like energy that flows through you, my friend. You at least get like a co-host if you need to, but get yourself something, my friend, because you are someone that is going places, especially in the furry fandom. I can see it. I can legit see it.
Aw. Well, I suppose you're a heretic seer then, making predictions.
Well,
Nah, I'm kidding. But, yeah,
there you go.
I really appreciate that. That's really nice. Maybe one day. I don't know. I always love hanging out with you guys too.
No.
Yeah, it's super.
Super. All right. So, but yeah, thank you for your question, Snow Princess. Religious fanboy, you're up next.
Something that I've talked about, but I really haven't asked people yet. Like something that I was planning on doing on my channel leading up to Christmas, kind of, was I was gonna see if, like, I was wanting to do a Bible study on, like, the 4 Gospels pertaining to the story of Jesus. And I was gonna see if you guys would be interested in helping out with that or anything.
With a Bible study?
Yeah. Or if you guys have like any tips on that particular topic of stuff to mention.
And so what's the topic?
Like just kind of like discussing like the 4 Gospels and how they individually discuss the birth of Jesus.
Well, make sure that like you get a harmonization going. Like you'd look at like there's books that are existing out there that go from the start to the end, and they basically just show where the Gospels tell the same thing and even show differences that occur in it compared to the stories, hence harmonizing. So you have that you probably want to look into to focus on specifically the birth of Jesus, and just focus on also the themes that are brought up in each gospel, because each one of them brings it up for a specific thing. Like I hear a lot of people go to Luke for they wanting a stronger like expounding on that. Like I hear that's usually a go-to for that. And in fact, for the debate that I'm going to be doing on the 14th on the historicity of the virgin birth, there's a book I'm reading to get me caught up on that from a guy. This is from 1920 by Vincent Taylor, called "The Historical Evidence for the Virgin Birth," and there's an entire chapter dedicated to to Luke's gospel, because Luke's gospel puts a lot of emphasis on it, and that there seems to be a lot of strong correlations that connect to it in there. So that would be my advice for it.
Thank you so much.
Hey, no problem, man. All right, let's go to the man who deserves his own show, Ave.
Oh well, thank you very much. And also, religious fanboy, I'd love to help you with your projects. Just let me know the details for it on Telegram, which you can do now. And yeah, no, we can work it out.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, no problem.
Mhm.
I will try to contact you more as soon as I get a Twitter. How does Telegram work?
It's an app. You can download it for free.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's pretty much like a instant messenger thing.
Okay.
All right, so I'm not sure if this is going to be the last question of the night. Maybe it's
Well, it is 4 minutes.
All right, well, it's a bit of a goofy one, but I was wondering. Okay, it's like a bit of a two-parter. One, do you believe in aliens, like extraterrestrial civilizations? And if so, do you think that God had sent down alien Jesus Christ type beings to those planets to relay the same messages?
So let me make sure I understand you. So your first part is, do I believe in aliens? And then the second is, do I believe that aliens were sent by God?
Like, no. Like, did God send a messenger, for instance, someone like Jesus, to these aliens and relay the same messages as Jesus did on Earth? Like, if aliens exist, would they have the same religion?
Right. Well, let me first point this out. Okay. Now we're ready to do this. All right, hold up. Let me.
I know it's kind of weird. I was just wondering if
No.
you believed in aliens.
I understand why you bring it up, and it's good. It's a good question. All right, so aliens.
Yes.
Oh
my God.
I don't believe.
Yes.
I don't know if there could be aliens possibly that exist, but the issue is then I don't believe that there was a messenger in the Bible or anything like in general of a alien being sent as a messenger and such, because that's the thing, we don't know. There are a lot.
No. That's not what I meant.
Okay.
I meant, like, let's say if there was an alien civilization, do you think that God would send a messenger to them?
Right. I think with anyone, if God wants to reveal something to them, if God wants to reveal something to anybody at any time, in any culture, he will send a messenger to make his message known. It's possible because God can do as he wants. And there could be times where he just doesn't want to do it. But for this, it's possible that for a specific group of people, for a specific relationship that he wants to establish with them, he could do that with the alien. So yeah, it's like possible and could happen.
Huh. All right. Yeah, because I asked this question to another Christian YouTuber just today, actually, on the podcast, because there's a lot of people out there, especially Christians, who use this particular verse to justify the existence of aliens, which is, I don't know exactly the citation, but it says, I have sheep in other pastures. I'm sure you've heard of that, of course.
Yeah.
So that's what they use to justify it, and I'm not sure if it totally applies in this case.
Yeah, it's that's so not. Honestly,
no, it doesn't, right? Okay.
It's referring. What it's referring to, is the Gentile and Jew salvation thing, where Jesus says that the good shepherd he is, and the shepherd lays down his life for his sheep, and he says that there are sheep of of another fold and such, and there's other verse that mentions that. That's just saying that not only is it of the Jews, you have sheep of the Gentiles. That's what it's saying in that context.
Right. Of course, I mean, like, you've seen, people use that term, though, to justify aliens. It's a little crazy, honestly. Okay.
By the way, there's a Snow Princess wants to ask you, have you heard of her potato chip cookie recipe?
I have not. Well, I heard you talk about it earlier, and I was like, potato chip cookie? Why?
Yeah.
Why? I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know about that. I mean, if
Yeah,
you...
I'm gonna
hopefully it's
send it
good.
to you. Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Okay. Maybe I'll cook them up one day and like eat them on a live stream and be like, "Hey guys, I'm eating some potato chip cookies here."
Oh, I gotta see that.
Yeah, well, you know, who knows?
Just for you, it requires a pound of butter.
All right.
Yeah. Also, just
I've never made it.
Yeah. Before we get to Simone, I don't know why, but for some reason, that question reminded me of there was an episode of Bill Maher, Real Time with Bill Maher in 2014, where he was talking about the Ken Ham, the creator of the Creation Museum, and then the recent Arca theme park, where he made a comment saying that NASA should give up its research on discovering aliens because aliens are not saved by the blood of Christ and therefore are automatically going to hell anyways.
Whoa!
And
how do we know that?
And Neil deGrasse Tyson was a guest at the time, and so he's like, to comment on this is leading astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Neil's just like looking and is shaking his head like, that's messed up.
Oh my.
Yeah, I can't do a Neil deGrasse Tyson impersonation if that's what y'all were trying to hope for, because that guy is like deep and smooth as can be, like that. I envy that voice, much like I envy Morgan Freeman's voice, which I can't accurately do. All I can do is something along the lines of this, because I am not Morgan Freeman. I am
I kind of envy your voice a little, RC.
Oh yeah, his voice is very deep and smooth.
Good. And also,
hey! If you're gonna say that, you better buy me dinner, Ave.
Sorry.
you have one of those voices, RC, that just makes you sound like one of the smartest people in the room.
Well, don't let that be. Don't
that type of voice.
Right, but don't let that be the reason that determines that. Make sure that's if it's any information that I have that I actually have, you know. So that's the thing. But thank you for the compliment there. That's the last question of the night goes to Simone.
Yes. Well, if everybody wants to answer this, they can. But do you like Nathan Sharp?
Oh my goodness! Oh man, that.
If you don't know who he is, he has a YouTube channel. Nate wants to battle.
Yeah, I know Nathan Sharp. In fact, so there's some songs of his that I play in my car and I sing them.
Oh my gosh, I love Nathan. Oh my god, I love him.
Yeah, like cause he's got some good songs out there. I like his covers of some songs that he does. I like the English dubbed covers of some of his things. Because he goes over like singing his, what was it? The Death Note opening one, sings that song. And,
the first song I ever heard by him was Because I'm Furry Trash, was the cover of The Lion King. I Just Can't Wait to Be King, which was absolutely awesome.
Oh my gosh, he is so awesome.
Wait, what was it?
A cover of I Just Can't Wait to Be King from The Lion King.
And he did that?
Dude, you haven't seen it? Oh, you have to.
I'm gonna have to, because I've seen some. I've seen some interesting. But one of my other favorites. Let's see. There was his, mangled in one day, no way. And my favorite is the classic Enjoy the Show. That's the one I would just blare out in my car and sing that particular song. Just because, like, that's the thing. If there's a way that I could do that he has an instrumental, I want to do that for karaoke if I go to a convention. Is that as well as Blood and Ink? Blood and Ink. Oh my.
Dude, have you heard him do the cover of We Not the Heroes for Attack on Titan, dude.
Yep, I heard it, and that was definitely something. Like he's got the voice for all that kind of music. So
And it went from Tokyo Ghoul, Unravel.
yeah, he was definitely built for that. Like
Woo.
I didn't like the Tokyo Ghoul music, to be honest, but I know that they are good for that. That Nathan is good for that kind of music, and I'm glad that he's also like given it out, because it's no longer Nate Wants to Battle. That's not the channel name anymore, because he finally started a record label, and Give Heart Records, being the label, and that you have the guy who used to be known as Mondo Pony, is on that label. With him, and I forget, there's a female on there that did the cover of Heathens from
his that's his fiance, Christina V.
Yeah, Christina V. She's on the label as far as I'm aware of. So he's actually being not just a musician, but he's also being a guy that is getting involved in the industry and getting other people to be out there as well. And I appreciate that, because the guy's just absolutely amazing. And so I like the music, and I hope he continues on with it, and I wish him luck in that. So yeah. Yeah. What the I've just been informed that what's his name? The Praise I Am That I Am posted a reply in the comments of the debate that I posted on the thing, because apparently I guess he saw it. Well, I don't see on my thing. Unless there's somewhere else. So I don't know where he would be then. So I'll have to take a look at some point for where that's at, because I don't see it. If he did reply, because then yeah. Anyways, but yeah, thank you for your question there.
Have you seen some of his gameplays? He does that too.
Yeah, I've seen it a little bit. I mean, it's just not. I just can't get to it sometimes. But I do want to mention another one. If you haven't heard of him, DA Games.
DA.
Now, yeah, if you think Nate's good with vocals, but while DA Games is good with that, the thing that makes him unique is his speed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He is literally just like, like if you listen to what are some songs? Build Our Machine is pretty much an example of that, because it's Bendy and the Ink Machine, and it's basically just a base off of chapter 1, because he was making new songs the more chapters come out, and like the lyrics are like, they've sent you a letter to come back home to play, but to your dismay, this isn't your day, for the happy fun time has begun to fade. Watch as we reanimate our corpses you abandoned. We're dismantled and mishandled, but we won't be skipped and swayed. Like it's like just fast paced, like it's almost like he's rapping the songs while singing it.
Yeah.
These walls left ourselves to drip
Away, the ink decays, the walls at bay.
Yeah.
Finally, someone that knows.
There was one really bad.
Of course I know. I love it.
One time in the middle of a history test in college, it was a couple months ago actually. The song "Africa" by Toto got stuck in my head, and then I was like, "It's going to be in there all day now."
Hey, it always is when it comes to that song.
Catchy. Very catchy.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, it has definitely been a good time. So thank y'all for tuning in. It is 11:10 p.m. So that means, you know what that means. Well, time is up. And hold up, I gotta quickly put this on the charger before my laptop dies. Yeah. So yeah, this has been the stream. it's also fun having y'all, especially a Snow Princess who is, I swear, probably connected to Elsa from Frozen, hence the name. Simone, our homegirl, who has provided everyone tea for about a year almost in the Discord server, so she's a wonderful tea expert. Yes, that's right. That thing is still a title in my server. Oh, by the way, so Praise did actually respond, but apparently it was labeled as spam because he's just gonna copy and paste a bunch of stuff. So I'll approve the comment so that way people can actually see and interact with it. So there you go. All right. So yeah. Where was I getting at? Oh yes. Yeah. So Simone is a great tea advisor, tea giver, as well as just awesome person 101. That's the fact, Jack.
Oh, you make me blush.
Oh, don't worry about it. You's awesome. You got to keep that in mind. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise, because they're fools. They don't know you. All right, and then of course, religious fanboy. We have to never forget him because, well, he is a fanboy of religion. That is the best kind of fanboy you can be. Absolutely.
Amen.
Also, Chris Wilson in the chat says Africa is a cool topic. Sometimes, mostly during Cold War era. We went from song to this World War and all this kind of stuff. It's interesting. But he says Roland the Headless Thompson Gunner by Warren Zevon is a song. It's about a merc, but okay, we'll definitely get into other kinds of songs here. So check all this stuff out, folks. All right, but yeah. So thank you for tuning in. This has been RC Apologist. Tune in for next week where we begin this. And of course, like I said, stay tuned for December 14th, which is, let me see, is that a night? Yeah, that's a Friday. So I don't know if I will be doing it. That'll be the week after. And I don't know if I'll be doing Ask Reformed Christian Apologist on that night. It all depends. But yeah, if you want, just make sure to be prepared. Mark that on your calendar. Then on Modern Day Hysteria's channel, that'll be where that is. And also, for those who have been antsy and excited for the movie that the documentary I've been working on of the Pure Christianity,
aka throwing other Christians under the bus.
Well, that's again the issue where you don't understand Christianity at that point, my friend, as we demonstrated earlier in this stream. That we were talking about the whole thing of pure Christianity. We're just going to probably do releasing parts at a time, and then we'll compile it into a full documentary. Because I know some people have been patient and been curious to see what has been coming up, and so we're going to let that be how we decide to handle this. Because of I'm sorry for the delay due to health complications and such that I've had, but we'll see how that turns out. But
speaking of which, can I ask a devil's advocate question?
Very quickly, because we are trying to wrap up here.
Okay, Jesus knew who he was. He was the Son of God, and to an extent, God incarnate. So he was savagely flogged and crucified on the cross. But he knew he would rise again. What did he sacrifice?
What did he sacrifice was the blood that was shed on the cross that was used, and the fact that his body was still killed and crucified on that cross. And that was still a sacrifice, regardless if it would have been resurrected.
Even if it's an eternal being, and like several hours of that is basically basically nothing compared to eternity.
Mm-hmm. But was there bloodshed?
Yeah.
And that was according to the Bible. What is the forgiveness and the atonement and such? That was the sin.
Wouldn't blood be shed similar to like you pricking your finger on something?
No, because they pierced his feet. They pierced his wrists or his hands, depending on how you want to interpret it.
Yeah, but you're an eternal being going just through that small amount of time on the scale of eternity.
And
that's like something you could, like a normal human could brush off.
That a normal human being
could like a insect bite that a human could just brush off.
No, because Jesus actually died on the cross. A human can't brush off death.
Right. The Bible says that their works are like
Yeah,
filthy
but
rags.
we're talking about God here.
Right. And with God, with Jesus Christ, he is sinless and is able to accomplish the task. And so when he whenever Christ goes to the cross and sheds his blood, that is an actual saving atonement that can be made compared to just another human being. One that is tainted by original sin with a sinful nature.
But he's eternal, and he knew he was going to heaven afterward.
Yeah. And
Like divide that by infinity, and that's how much suffering the narrative goes by.
I don't understand what you're asking here. Like literally the whole story is, did Christ shed his blood on the cross? If yes, that is sufficient for the atonement that atoned for the sin. That is what the Bible states. And
Yeah,
it was
for
able to atone.
for like 9 or 6 or 12 hours, depending on depending on which gospel you read.
So 9 or 6 to 12 hours worth of sin, are you saying?
No, worth of human, pain in comparison to eternity.
Okay, but why is that relevant? Why is that relevant?
I don't know.
I mean, like, does the amount
Exactly.
of time actually matter? Or
No,
does
because-
it actually matter that it happened?
Exactly.
That's
How much time did it take for them to kill a bull or a lamb when they were making those offerings? And that's what Christ is reflecting off of, is he's the
Few
true
seconds.
lamb offering and such.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep.
Do you have a problem with that?
No.
Okay.
Like I said, it's a devil's advocate question.
Right, but I'm saying, does the devil's advocate have a problem with that?
I guess they always will.
Who knows? There's people I've met that have changed their mind. Hence the power of the gospel, my friend. All right. So, folks, we're tuning out. So, again, tune in next time. And until then, this has been RC Apologist. Take care.